party over there that ain't no job. It's live, it's all the way live. Don't even have to walk, don't even have to drive. Just slide, slippity slide. Just forget about the troubles in your 9 to 5 and just sail on. That's what you do, just sail on. Now the dude's so funky, hey, what do you think? What is it called? It's called a lakeside stank. Come along and ride on a fantastic voyage. I'm the captain of this vessel. We wanna take you on a cruise all around the land. Music is at hand. We wanna play it for you. You see, we want to be your crew of entertainment. Jam to the music, to the beat. Jam, yeah. Don't let nothing restrain you. We just want you to feel nothing but pleasure. Musical pleasure. Yeah. Music is very real. Really real. Truly a treasure. Musical treasure. Come along, black bags. Get on up and jam on. Come on and ride on the floor.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and all who bounce in between? It's your friendly neighborhood fellow traveler here, coming at you live on Saturday afternoon, approximately 1:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, on the 20th of July, 20 days after my birth, and 20 days in one of the hottest months of the summer. So, yeah, what's going on, guys? What's going on? Keep using funk as bumper music. I mean, yeah, I fucking love funk. I've been very high on funk lately. I've been very high on funk and on soul. Tell you what, man. This may sound racist to some, but this is positive racism. Black people make some of the best music. Like, seriously. Some of the best music ever. Like, I love funk, man. I've been on a serious funk kick lately. But anyways, you got jump scared. That's funny. So I have a variety of topics that I seek to talk about today. Sorry about putting off this live stream, by the way, for a couple of days. As you all probably know from my community post, my girlfriend's vehicular mode of transportation, because this country loves cars so much, was manufactured on top of several indigenous burial mounds and was thus cursed with a lot of problems. So I had to go on a little rescue mission in the middle of a highway intersection. That was fun. And also, beyond that, I had a few job interviews yesterday. I got, as you all, if you tuned into my most recent video, know that I've been fired. But enough about myself. What are we here to talk about today? Oh yeah, how are you, ladies and gentlemen, doing? I hope you guys are doing well. I hope you're all having a wonderful Saturday afternoon. So I was going to talk about the attempted assassination of Donald Trump first and foremost. But before I talk about that, I want to get into a little bit of sport news. Getting a little bit of sport news real quick, more specifically UFC. So UFC 304 is coming up very soon, and I think I'm going to put money on it. I think I'm going to put some money on my favorite Palestinian, Belal Mohammad. So again, Belal Mohammad and Leon Edwards are battling for the welterweight strap, and I'm going to put a little money on my boy Belal because not only do I like him as a fighter, I like him as a person, and I also think he's a massive underdog. In his last 5 fights, he has been an underdog, and this is a testimony to the fact that, again, it is socially acceptable to discriminate against Palestinians. That is just the current state of the world right now, given modern history and conditions. But what I am going to show you guys is a real quick little video-roo of Belal versus Leon Edwards 1. I'm going to show you guys not the whole fight, but only part of it. We're going to start at about the 5-minute mark, and I want to show you guys the outcome. So Leon Edwards is a piece of shit. He repeatedly, the Brit Bonger right here, he repeatedly eye gouged the fuck out of Belal. And for those of you who don't know, eye gouges are illegal in the sport of mixed martial arts. And Leon Edwards eye gouged the fuck out of Belal. but it's nothing unusual because he eye gouged the fuck out of Kamaru Usman during the rubber match and during the sequel fight. He's apparently he takes a lot of pointers from the John Jones school of martial arts, where he just pokes the fuck out of your eyes. But yeah, let's just play this. See that? You guys see that? Eye gouge right there. See that? This is illegal right here. The shit he's doing right here. You can't argue that this is an accident. This is deliberate as deliberate can be. If you're holding your hands out right here and someone's coming towards you, you can't tell me that this is not a deliberate eye gouge. So he tried to eye gouge Belal here. I'm pretty sure he tried to do it a minute ago too.
I mean, Edwards is just so relaxed in there. He's not loading up. Everything comes from where it needs to be.
Again,
and he lands, and he's so quick, he sees everything.
Yeah, he fights with zero emotion.
Yeah.
You know, it's a job in there.
Heavy exchange, high impact on each side as the final seconds of round one tick away. Back ready for round two. Belal Mohammad took some power shots in the first round.
Seriously, though, Belal's undefeated. He may as well be undefeated in the UFC. He's on like a 9-fight winning streak, 10-fight unbeaten streak, with the one fight being a no contest, i.e. against Leon Edwards.
Still going. Mohammad was excited to have 25 minutes, test himself. Prove that
he got another eye gouge. Like, literally fucking fingers out. They should be pointing his ass right now. They should be taking points off of him. Because that's like, I've watched this whole fight, and that is probably the third or fourth eye gouge attempt during this fight.
In these big spots against the sport's best.
See that?
Another
There's the eye gouge.
Oh, it was a poke in the eye.
Along.
This ain't king of the streets, motherfucker. This is fucking UFC. There are rules. So
in these big spots against the sport's best.
Eye gouge. Straight
Another pull.
He went knuckle deep. He went knuckle deep in Belal's eye. Knuckle deep.
Poke in the eye. Yeah. Wasn't a low blow as he landed the body kick.
Over there.
Okay, so
over there.
You got to see the replay because last time.
Oh no.
Yes.
Oh my God, this looks like a bad one.
Fuck.
Oh man. Oh,
See that? He's crying.
Oh my goodness.
Hey,
I got a
it's
bad
okay.
feeling.
Okay,
This
Belal,
does not
what I need
sound
you to do is
good.
I need you to relax.
And just so you guys know, UFC fighters are a different breed of human. These are some tough motherfuckers. So if an eye gouge is enough to bring a UFC fighter of all people to the brink of tears, you know it's bad. So off the eye gouges alone, I'm rooting for Belal, but I'm also rooting for Belal because it's about time the UFC had its first Palestinian champion. That's all I'm saying. So these guys are going to be, when is UFC 304? But I'm going to show you guys a picture of the Leon Edwards versus Belal Muhammad eye gouge. I'm going to show you guys this real quick. See that shit? Right in the knuckle. Knuckle deep in Belal's eye. You see that shit? And this is the eye gouge, which is the reason why Belal's got a fucked up looking eye. Because if you look at pictures of him, check it out. Want to know? This is why he has a fucked up looking eye. This is Leon Edwards did this to him. So yeah. Also, he's ripped as hell right now in preparation for this fight. I want to show you guys this guy's shape, his condition. This guy has come in phenomenal condition for the Leon Edwards fight. There he is, right here. Look how ripped he is. This is the body of a man who knows this is the only title shot he's ever going to get. Because they fucking gave Colby Covington a title shot before they gave Belal Muhammad. So, yeah. So this is the body of a man who knows that the only chance he is going to get at the title. So I'm rooting for my man Belal. He is one of my favorite fighters in the UFC outside of Alex Pereira and Islam Makhachev. This guy right here. This is my other favorite fighter. This guy right here. Alcoholic kickboxer turned UFC champion, as well as This guy right here. I love Islam. Islam is probably the best fighter on the planet, but I digress. I just wanted to go through a little bit of sport news. No, he was not. Unfortunately, eye gouges are not punished nearly enough in the UFC. John Jones made a career out of eye gouging the fuck out of his opponents for like his first 10 fights. He doesn't do it nearly as much anymore, but back in the day when he was on the come up, he eye gouged a lot of his opponents. So, yeah, unfortunately, the UFC does not deduct points or DQ competitors nearly enough for eye pokes, but they really ought to, and it is very unfortunate. But yeah, Leon Edwards, other than that, Leon Edwards is not an active fighter. He is not a dominant fighter. There's some revisionist history going on that because he got a fluke-ass head kick KO win over Kamaru Usman, that he's some kind of knockout artist, when he's not. He's a point striker. He jabs and low kicks from range to his way to a decision, takes advantage of his long limbs, his arms, and his legs. People shit all over Belal because he's quote-unquote boring because all of his fights go to a decision, but at least he has an excuse to go to a decision, you know? He's a wrestler. That's his background. Belal's predominantly a short and stout wrestler, while Leon Edwards is a striker, and he goes to decision all the time. Where's his excuse? If you're a striker, you're supposed to be fun and exciting. Where's your excuse? You know what I'm saying? People think this fight's going to be a snooze fest, but I think it's going to be a banger because Leon Edwards definitely has some kind of animosity towards Belal, and Belal towards Leon. There's some beef going on. Don't kid yourself, comrades. When is the Gaddafi video coming? You said a month ago you were almost sorry if this sounds rude. I know, man. I know, man. I'm sorry. I'll get back to work on it today. I know it was supposed to be out by now, but honestly, I just sort of stopped for a bit. I got kind of demoralized because it was taking way longer than initially anticipated. But I think what I'm probably going to do is split it up into a two-parter after all. I'm going to start with before and after the coup and overthrow and talk about really not Gaddafi while he was on the come up. I apologize for my tardiness on that. But I've been dealing with internal anxiety. I want to see social movements grow now. I'm impatient. I know, man. I know. I wish. I mean, but you know how the phrase goes. There are decades when weeks happens, and there are weeks when decades happens. And if there's nothing going on, I recommend you start something. If the movement hasn't started, then start a movement. Unfortunately, that is how it is. The Zionist entity is collapsing. Fuck yeah, it is. And we should all be glad that it is collapsing. Now on to the predominant topic of this live stream. So as I'm sure all of you are aware, recently Donald Trump has been shot. Apparently the bullet didn't even nick him in the air. It shot like a piece of glass on the side, and that piece of glass shattered and cut him in the air. Actually, as a matter of fact, I want to show you guys something real quick. Here we go. I'm going to show you guys a little cartoon. Full screen, yes. Check this shit out.
我が心と行動に一点の曇りなし。すべてが正義だ。どしゃーんどしゃーんどしゃーん一斉何のつもりなんだ。このバリタイのことを知り。我が心。
Hold on a second. There we go. So yeah, this is based off of the iconic photo of Trump being like this with the I don't think I've ever seen a picture in my life that gets more American than that. And I feel like this iconic moment alone is gonna give Trump an insurmountable upper hand during the election. I'm actually gonna do a bet with my brother at some point later. Be like, yo, I'm gonna bet you $100 that Donald Trump wins this election. I have a very good feeling Trump's gonna win. That's all I'm saying. But yeah, so there's not a lot that's known about the shooter. Apparently, the shooter was a registered Republican. And after that, nobody gave a dump. The polls were unfazed. Even if that's true, oh, it's not showing up. Are you kidding me? Did you guys not see the cartoon? Anyways, if not, I apologize. If you guys didn't see it, I'm gonna probably pull it back up here in a minute. But we're going to go through some news articles, comrades. We're going to go through some news articles. Because I am learning about this as you guys are. But yeah,
5 p.m. on Saturday, July 13th, in Butler, Pennsylvania. Supporters of former President Donald Trump.
Whoops. All I saw was a white screen. What the fuck? God damn. Present, share screen, entire screen. Oh, that's why. I gotta share my entire screen. I gotcha. That's why it didn't show up. Also share system audio. Yeah. One moment. Let me pull it up real quick. Sorry, guys. You ain't gonna get shit after this. Entire screen, share. Yes, fuck yes, share system audio. There we go.
我が心と行動に一点の曇りなし。すべてが正義だ。ドジャーンドジャーンドジャーン一体何のつもりなんだ遺体はこのバレンタインのことを好いてくれて。
But yeah, that was the image I was talking about right here. Right here, the most America picture that you could possibly have. I hope you guys see this anyways. But yeah, this is what I was talking about. For those of you who have ever followed the JoJo's Bizarre Adventure manga / anime, you know exactly what this is a reference to. But yeah, good shit.
我が心と行動に一点の曇りなし。すべて何のつもりなんだ
It's a good thing Trump's stando was there. His stando was there to protect him. That's for sure. Anyways, alright, let's go ahead and get this shit started. Trump shooting.
It's around 5 p.m. on Saturday, July 13th, in Butler, Pennsylvania. Supporters of former President Donald Trump are waiting for him to take the stage. They've been trickling in throughout the afternoon. 5:06 p.m., around 1 hour before Trump takes the stage, a person who appears to be 20-year-old Thomas Matthew Crooks is caught on camera. In a video obtained exclusively by WTAE, he is seen pacing around these buildings just outside the security perimeter of the rally. He appears unarmed at this time. Law enforcement sources confirmed to ABC News they believe this is the suspected shooter who in a little over an hour will fire at the former president. While Crooks apparently paces outside the rally, two teams of counter-snipers are about to take their positions here.
You know, the crazy part is that this guy is apparently a registered Republican, and the FBI actually cited him like a full-on hour before the shooting actually commenced. So let me get this straight. The FBI, with all of their resources and all of their manpower and assets at their disposal, the fact that they saw him and they were aware of his presence a full hour before the events. They didn't fuck around with him for a full hour. You're telling me that the FBI just and they only fired back when he fired, which is very interesting to me. I'm not trying to get conspiratorial on you guys or nothing, but what I'm trying to tell is that I find that oddly bizarre that the FBI didn't fire at him first before he took his shots. Now, is it incompetence? Could it be incompetence on the part of the FBI? I don't know. Government institutions have a broad capacity for incompetence, so that is very possible. It could just purely be a coincidence, or, not to get conspiratorial on you guys, it is possible that the U.S. deep state does not want Trump president again because of how wildly stupid and incompetent he is, speaking of incompetent government officials. Now, I know Jason Unruh is kind of carrying water for this conspiracy, so to speak, but all I'm trying to tell is it would not surprise me if the U.S. government wanted Trump dead. Man, this is crazy how I'm starting to sound like a Trump sycophant, even though, like, I'm a communist. Like, I just want to lay it out there that I'm not a fan of Donald Trump at all. I've never liked him. I've never rooted for him. But I'm just saying, given the extenuating circumstances of the economy, given the way he ran the country last time he was in office, it would not surprise me if the U.S. government basically wanted him dead. Because they want a puppet. They want a puppet who will do what they're told. They don't want an incompetent puppet. Biden will do as he's told. That's the reason why they want him in office. Trump ain't going to do what he's told. He's going to make dumb, poor decisions and surprisingly undermine the empire, if anything.
On these two buildings located behind where Trump will take the stage. 6:03 p.m., former President Donald Trump takes the stage at a campaign rally. 6:05 p.m., Trump stands behind the podium and begins to speak.
This is a big crowd. This is a big, beautiful crowd.
Rally attendees have been scanned for weapons before entering the event. 6:09 p.m., just 2 minutes before the first gunshots, the counter-sniper team positioned further south turns to face towards the building where the gunman is located. In the next minute, we will see them begin to move into position, kneeling down, grabbing their weapons, and pointing them in the direction of the shooter.
The Republican Party.
At the same time, 6:09 p.m., witnesses notice a gunman on the roof of this building located here, just outside the security perimeter. He is in an elevated position and around 400 feet away from the former president. Law enforcement sources later tell ABC News the shooter made his way onto the building by pulling himself up using an AC unit. 6:10 p.m., 1 minute before the first gunshots. A bystander captures what appears to be local law enforcement walking around looking at these two structures. Local law enforcement would later tell ABC News they had been alerted of suspicious activity in the area and were...
What do I think of J.D. Vance? I never heard of him until this precise moment, actually. I'm seeing him in the corner of the screen right here. J.D. Vance's wife, Usha, faces racist online backlash from far-right social media users. I mean, what, is she the wrong color? I'm sorry, but this fascinates me. Let's check this out. Oh yeah, she is the wrong color. She's, like, racially ambiguous. Former President Donald Trump's newly announced VP pick. Gotcha. Oh, she is. She's the wrong color. I got you. That's why they don't like her. Right. You see, the far right will accept tokens when it's politically convenient. I'm sure many of them regard her as one of the good ones, so to speak. But yeah, racism is racism. It will manifest in very obvious ways. Not so much in our modern day politically correct culture, but yeah, even in the politically correct era we find ourselves within, racism will find a way. They're just going to make, I think dog whistling is the term. They're just going to mask and cloak their racism behind a veneer of politically correct, dare I say, woke language. It's crazy how Republicans and the far right in general will shit all over, like, the left and what they consider the left. Apparently having gay people in cartoons is leftism nowadays. But it's crazy how they'll accuse everything of being woke now, and yet amongst their own ranks they'll accept women, they'll accept minorities, they'll accept darker skinned people just for the sake of tokenism. Like, the very same tokenism they blast the left for is exactly what they do. And it's almost like a silent admission on the part of the far right, a silent admission that we have to present that we're not racist. We have to present the veneer, at the very least, that we're not racist, just so we can swindle and trick working, uneducated people into supporting us, basically. JD and Usha met at a law school. Yeah, so basically she's a rich brown person. That makes sense. They met at a law school, and that's when they got hitched. You see, when I think of the American Hitler, guys, I think of people like J.D. Vance. I do not believe Trump to be the American Hitler. I believe the American Hitler to be an individual like this, a younger individual, probably. I don't know anything about this guy, but if we're going to get an American Hitler, it's going to be a guy like this, a guy who's younger, well, young by politician standards, who's in his like mid to late 30s, who's in the prime of his life, who is way more competent, conniving, and intelligent, and who is in a very efficient, manipulative bureaucrat and politician. So the American Hitler is going to look something like this. It's not going to look like Donald Trump. Plus, Donald Trump's, let's be real, he's near the end of his life. He's probably going to be dead within the next decade or so. But as I was saying, let's go through some of this article. The wife of Republican vice presidential candidate Usha Vance and the couple's children have become targets of backlash for their Indian ancestry. That's right, motherfucker. You chose the wrong color to be associated with the extreme right within the United States. Wrong color. Too much melatonin in your skin. Too much melatonin. Chilukri Vance, the daughter of Indian immigrants who grew up in San Diego, as well as RNC Speaker Harmeet Dilian, who is Sikh and Indian, are facing anti-Asian hate from far-right figures online. Posts appear to have spiked the week following Vance's nomination, criticizing Vance for marrying someone who is non-white, expressing concerns about an influx of Indian immigrants as a result of the so-called Great Replacement conspiracy, have garnered hundreds of thousands of views, according to individual post-engagement figures. You see, it's so crazy how, like, scared white people are of, like, non-white people. Even, like, people who don't consider themselves to be racist, like, blue-check Democratic types, are actually kind of racist as fuck. To the point to where they'll low-key, like, carry water for Nazi and far-right conspiracy theories. When, I don't know, man, I think people, like, melanin carrying people are awesome. I like darker women, you know. I like Black and Hispanic women, you know. It's also kind of funny how the cognitive dissonance carries over into the sphere. Like, let's say you've got like someone who's a straight up Nazi, who's in a bar, and some Black lady walks in who's just completely stacked, built like an Amazon. She's a brick house, all other jazz. It's kind of funny because I've witnessed this in real time, like how quickly they will set their racism to the side and like, yeah, I'll do a little race mixing and help the white race go extinct for 5 minutes. Go talk to her. You know what I'm saying? I just think it's kind of funny. But yeah, Stop AAPI Hate, an advocacy group that tracks anti-Asian hate incidents, condemned the attacks, arguing that the onslaught of hate has reinforced heightened levels of fear and anxiety Asian Americans and immigrants are currently experiencing across the country. Oh yeah, no one talks about that either. The degree to which Asian people are frequently falling victims to hate crimes within the United States. Well, geez, as it turns out, when you constantly make fear-mongering and propaganda about red peril and the Chinese, the yellow peril, the Asiatic hordes, you're constantly talking shit about them and talking about, you know, the enemy being weak and strong. China is both on the brink of collapse at any moment, trust me, bro. While on the other hand, China's going to take over. As it turns out, that shit manifests into targeted hate crimes towards Asian people, whether or not they're actually Chinese. But yeah, that doesn't surprise me at all. But I digress. This ain't even, fuck it, we'll go through some more of it. The backlash comes as former President Trump appeared to call for more national unity after the assassination attempt he experienced at a Pennsylvania rally. The discord and division of our society must be healed, must be yada yada. As Americans, we are bound together by a single fate and destiny, etc., etc. We rise together, etc., or we fall apart, Trump said during the remarks Thursday on the last day of Republican National Convention in Milwaukee. excuse me. It's a stark contrast from Trump's typical tone. Well, yeah, didn't he deem all immigrants racist, or didn't this racist piece of shit deem all immigrants like criminals and rapists at one point? Wasn't he like fear-mongering about immigrants not too long ago during his presidential... I'll tell you what, man, Trump lies as much as he breathes. I swear to God, the cognitive dissonance is real. So after your hateful, violent rhetoric towards immigrants and minorities, you're walking that shit back because it's convenient for you to walk back. Like, guys, racism's great. It's tremendous. Believe me, let me tell you, but we need to tone down the racism when it comes to supporting our own, guys. You see, it's okay to be racist against working people, but we have brown people in the Republican Party now helping us save face. So please tune down the racism, guys. You know what I'm saying? Watching Trump walk back his deliberate racism in real time will never not be funny. But anyways, let's walk back to this article. So there's been a number of updates since the...
It's around 5 p.m. on Saturday, July 13th
Shut the
in
fuck
Butler,
up.
Pennsylvania.
Shut your bitch ass up. But as I was saying, yeah. Oh, fuck, I forgot to share that other tab. Oh, wait, no, I didn't. We're still sharing this tab. So, anyways, here's some live updates. DHS leadership pushes back on criticism of women's Secret Service agents. God damn it, the Secret Service is getting woke, too. You can't have women taking bullets for our fascist politicians. Only men can take bullets for our fascist politicians. Authorities investigating if Trump's shooter used a drone. Mayorkas subpoenaed for documents on Trump rally shooting. What we know. Oh, so this is recent. New details have emerged about the suspected shooter at former President Donald Trump's rally over the weekend, including what first brought Thomas Matthew Crooks under suspicion. Read more here. Again, so they knew about this guy a full hour beforehand. Actually, yeah, let's do that. Let's look up the shooter. But yeah, they knew about this guy a full hour beforehand, and yet they deliberately chose not to do anything about it. Look up the shooter. From honor students to the gunman who tried to kill Donald Trump, Thomas Crooks was a brainy and quiet young man who built computers and won honors at school, impressing his teachers, then became would-be assassin. Right. For Thomas Crooks, the suburban Pittsburgh nursing home where he serviced a meal and washed dishes for $16 an hour was another side tangent, but isn't it crazy how much wages have gone up in recent years? All it took was the so-called labor shortage, people making the active and deliberate decision not to go to work for pennies, for workplaces to quickly realize, oh shit, we can't function without these people, and just for them to raise wages. But like, I don't know how anybody in this economy makes less than 15 an hour and survives. Because literally all the produce, all the food, and all of the rent, all the stuff that like has traditionally, been pretty expensive as is, has gotten twice as expensive inside the last 5 years or so. Frankly, minimum wage being $7.25 is a crime. I even think 15 an hour isn't even that much money, man. Like, minimum wage should be like 20 an hour. Like, seriously. He was polite but distant, a former coworker said. But as Western Pennsylvania geared up last week for the boisterous spectacle of hosting a rally for former President Donald J. Trump, Mr. Crooks approached his bosses with a request. Law enforcement officials said he wanted to take Saturday off. That's nothing out of the ordinary. People take days off from work all the time. He was only 20 years old. It was one of the few hints to emerge so far that someone taking the day off is not a fucking hint that they're a crazed gunman. Being a white cis man, that is a hint that they're a crazed gunman, but not taking the day off. People take days off all the time. It was one of the few hints to emerge so far that the 20-year-old engineering science graduate was planning to become a political assassin. A week after, so what? He's like one of -10 Republicans that is anti-Trump. A week later, after Mr. Crooks opened fire at the rally and was killed by the Secret Service, his ideology and motives remain a vexing question. In dozens of interviews, former classmates, teachers, neighbors said they could not square their memories of Mr. Crooks, so he's a nobody, as most crazed gunmen are in America. An awkward, intelligent teenager who likes to tinker with computers and spend his weekends playing video games. Quote, that's where I'm struggling. I've looked at horrific pictures of an individual that I stood 6 inches away from, shaking his hand, calling him on class, said Xavier Harmon, who saw Mr. Crooks almost daily in the computer technology class he taught at technical school. All in all, this whole situation is just bizarre to me. You know what I'm saying? The whole situation is just bizarre. But I got another news article for you guys. Allegedly, Trump shooter flew drone hours before the event. So, you know, if you're planning a political assassination, it only makes sense that you're going to scout out the area with any tools necessary so that you know exactly how to murder someone.
Photographers who captured what have become 3 of the most iconic images from Saturday's attempted assassination on former President Donald Trump. The Associated Press's Evan Vucci took this now indelible photo of the defiant Republican nominee pumping his fist in the air with an American flag flying above. And a moneymaker with Getty Images snapped the tightly framed, sobering image of Mr. Trump crunched down on the stage, surrounded by Secret Service as blood dripped down his face. And Doug Mills with the New York Times took that remarkable photo, appearing to show a bullet streaking past the former president.
Take a look at what happened.
All 3 photojournalists are now speaking out about what it was like to be there as the shots rang out and how they managed to capture these photos while being so dangerously close to the line of fire.
Did you realize that you were taking such an iconic photo as you were taking it?
No, I honestly had no idea. I was literally in the moment just trying to do my job. Like, okay, is the exposure right? Is my composition right? Do I see his face? I saw the blood coming down his face, and I knew that I got the image. But in that moment, I'm just trying to see, okay.
Bro got a heaping dose of testosterone during his adolescence.
Okay.
But I digress.
This is probably going to be one of the most important things I'll ever photograph. Am I missing anything? Is there anything happening around me? So I wasn't thinking about like the impact of the photography. I was thinking only about like continuing to do the job, because as a photographer, I don't have a second chance. I have to get it right then and there.
I'm there to do a job. I mean, I was saying to myself under my breath, like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. But I just kind of like said, Anna, just like keep going, like keep making the pictures. And then I see through like one of the agent's legs, I see Trump's face. And that's when I'm like, I pull out my like 70 to 200 and just thankfully like get it in focus and just like hit the shutter.
Next to the of 1/8,000th of a second.
What do you think the chances are that you actually pop that bullet?
Oh, I've heard one forensic guy told me it's between 1 in a million and 1 in 5 million chances that you do that. To be able to that happen was just, again, very lucky.
The 3 images will no doubt be part of the history books, much like the famous photo by Bill Epridge capturing the moment a busboy went to help Robert F. Kennedy moments after he was assassinated in 1968, and the image by Associated Press photographer Ron Edmond.
Interesting. Aerial surveillance appears to be another in a series of security failures that allowed the gunman to nearly kill the former president. Again, government institutions fuck up all the time. So, and the simplest answer is usually the best one. Until I see actual evidence that there was some kind of foul play or conspiracy, I'm not really going to sit here and assume it was foul play or conspiracy. It's not like, you know, a failed coup attempt in Venezuela or Ecuador, in which the CIA has a long history of fornicating with fascists in Latin America and giving them the resources they need in order to overthrow progressive democratic governments. This is just you know, someone tried to shoot the president. I don't think the FBI like trained this fool. I don't think he was associated with the FBI at all. But based on what I am able to deduct from this whole situation, the most you could probably say is that the FBI or the US deep state was trying to let this happen. Sort of like how I think they let 9/11 happen, you know? They knew about it ahead of time. They saw the writing on the wall. Everything was there. And, you know, 9/11 happens. And it makes sense for them to let 9/11 happen because we got Operation Desert Storm and all the provocation necessary in order to invade the Middle East. So it makes sense to me. It's unclear how investigators learned about the drone flight, but drones often leave electronic traces of their flight paths. Okay. An electronic trace. Interesting. I didn't know that. A drone and drone equipment were recovered from Crook's vehicular, a senior law enforcement source said. A motive and attempts to kill Trump remains unknown. Right. Maybe I should just look up the motivation. Trump assassination attempt motivation. Like, I don't understand, like, lack of motive in Trump attack frustrates public, but it fits pattern. I mean, you're telling me this guy didn't release like a manifesto or something before he just tries to casually murder the president? Or maybe the motivation's being hidden. Maybe it's one of those situations where it's like the far right is trying to protect their own, you know. But yeah, new details emerged in Trump assassination attempt. Trump shooter remains an elusive enigma. Days after, I mean, he literally died then and there. Like the FBI shot him dead on the spot after he tried to shoot Trump. So I don't know how he's an elusive enigma. It's crazy that there's not more information on this, but before I can really give like a more concise opinion, more investigation needs to be done. No investigation, no right to speak. So let's take a gander at this video I got for you that's also talking about one more video I want to show you guys.
There are many strange details regarding the shooting of former President Donald Trump, and a lot has come out in days afterwards. We're going to break down some of the more bizarre details and unknowns from this.
Yeah, he looks like the average spree shooter in the United States. This is exactly how you would expect a spree shooter to look. You know, glasses, nerdy looking, no chin. He's got kind of like a fetal alcohol syndrome looking face. This is exactly how I would expect him to look.
This past week. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. It has been quite a week so far in the aftermath of the attempted assassination of former President Donald Trump out in Butler, Pennsylvania, when a shooter identified as 20-year-old Thomas Matthew Crooks opened fire, ultimately wounding Donald Trump, critically injuring two others, David Dutch and James Copenhaver, although they're reportedly in stable condition, but also tragically killing 50-year-old Corey Comparator. And he was apparently shielding his wife and children from gunfire that day. By the way, I have to tell you, there were GoFundMe pages that were set up for both Corey and for the Butler victims in general. I want you to listen to this. Corey's, at the time of this recording, is almost at $1.3 million raised, where there was a goal of just $7,000. And over $5.4 million has been raised for the families in general, in total. That is incredible. Incredible.
Dude, I need to like fake a catastrophic tragedy in my life so that I can get millions of dollars or even like thousands of dollars worth of GoFundMe donations. If I had like 1% this money, just 1%, that would change my life for the better in ways you can't possibly imagine. Like, being poor sucks, man. I wish I had just 1% of this money. Even 1%, I could fuck so much shit up. Because that's like, what, 60 grand? And that's like 64 bands, basically. That's life-changing money right there. And it's crazy how the U.S. government has the power to like casually print tens of thousands of dollars left and right and dump it into circulation to bail out big corporations, but they can't print a fraction of that money that they routinely print for big corporations for working people to help them recover from a recession, even though it is completely within their power. And that, my friend, is the definition of evil. That is no different from being out in the middle of a desert, see someone dying of thirst on the ground, and just, you have a glass of water, you just hold it over their head while you're watching them die of thirst. In my opinion, that is the equivalent of that. It's a form of violence. The fact that the U.S. government has the power to casually like end our economic woes, but doesn't, is a form of violence.
Support. But there are a lot of weird aspects to this shooting as the FBI is investigating this. And
say that twice.
To be clear, this is a rapidly developing story, an evolving story. So what we're discussing with you right now is based on the information we currently have. Things could always change, but let's talk about this. We have been shield him from any continuing gunfire character of suspicion because they saw him with that rangefinder in that bag. And then, according to Fox News, sources say 10 minutes before Trump walked on that stage, the Secret Service supposedly changed their assessment. Instead of considering Crooks suspicious, they'd apparently upgraded his status to a threat. And yet, despite all of that, the ex-president was still allowed to step onto that stage. Why? That's a big question, right? According to another Fox report, the Secret Service agent in charge was actually on the phone with local and state police about this threat, about this guy, while the shooting was taking place.
You see, that's who you got to look out for when it comes to these deadly spree shooters, is like nerdy ass, skinny, chinlit white guys. Those are like the prime perpetrators of these types of shootings. The things to look out for, asymmetrical fetal alcohol syndrome looking ass face, non-existent chin, receding hairline, glasses, ghostly pale ass white skin. Those are the signs that someone might be a spree shooter.
There were also reports that a sniper from a local tactical team had snapped a photograph of the gunman, saw him looking through a rangefinder. Again, this is before the shooting, and then radioed that information.
According to the shooter's classmates, they confirmed a fair bit about the shooter. One being he was definitely no shit. He was a registered Republican. I'm assuming he was one of negative 25 Republicans in the country. But I feel like this sets a very deadly precedent because I feel like things like this are going to become more of a commonality in the United States, just like random sporadic acts of political violence. And it's mainly going to be perpetrated by the right. I don't doubt that there's going to be sporadic violence perpetrated by the left, like people blowing up pipelines or whatever. But it's going to be more common on the right. I mean, really, violence in general is just going to get turned up. The heat's going to get turned up in this country dramatically. According to the shooter's classmates, they confirmed a fair bit about the shooter, one being he's definitely conservative. I read that. You're kind of wrong on the fact that ruling class don't like Trump. Trump literally passed tax cuts for the rich. No, I'm not wrong at all, because the ruling class is not a monolith. Some of them like them, most of them do not. There's a reason why they did that big psyop back in 2020 to get Biden elected. And it's because they wanted Trump out of there because of the perceived racism and well, it wasn't perceived, it was literally racist, but it's because of the incompetence. Like the ruling class isn't completely a monolith. It's there's bourgeois factionalism exists. You have disagreements amongst the wealthy and powerful as to whether or not gay people should be allowed to vote or what have you. And Trump just happens to be a good chunk of the ruling class does not like Trump, mainly just because of what he represents, but also just because he's wildly incompetent. Like he almost started World War III multiple times. But yeah, I think Crooks was most likely just a crazed gunman. Yeah, same here. I think was planning to either get Biden or Trump, but Trump was closer to him. Yeah. Fun fact, the shooter intended on shooting Biden too. I mean, he doesn't even need to kill Biden. Looks like he's going to keel over and die any second now. So it makes sense he went for Trump first because, about in his mind, well, Biden's going to die any minute now. Like, even the Democrats are universally acknowledging that Biden is like, his time is running short. How many groups like SRA are prepped? I have no idea. I sometimes forget bourgeois factionalism. Yeah, me too. Remember, the ruling class is not a monolith. They do disagree with one another on various issues. However, on the issue of fucking working people, they agree. If they see working people coming together, yeah, hear me now, say it later. They will consolidate into a monolithic force to crush any sort of revolution that's coming in this country. They're already getting prepped for it. Y'all ever heard of Stop Cop City or Cop City? Make people owning more than 2 properties pay stupid high property tax. Agreed. My opinion is, so here's the thing, man. When it comes to wealth under socialism, I'm of the school of thought that I don't have a problem with people having millions or even tens of millions of dollars under socialism, as long as that wealth was not accumulated exploiting other human beings. As long as that wealth was not accumulated via the use of wage labor, rent, dividends, credit, and or intellectual property, I think it's fair game. You know, if you're like a live streamer, people are donating millions of dollars to you, or you're like a famous actor or movie star, you wrote a really good bitchin' book and shit ton of people buy it. I would say, yeah. I don't really have much problem with that. It's really the exploitation aspect. Like, money, how much money you have matters way less to me than how you make your money. Because your material interests are inevitably going to be antagonistic towards another human being if you make 100 grand a year renting out another home versus being an engineer and just working a job. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what people don't understand about like Marxism and the differentiation between private and personal property. So I think like a decade deep into socialism, you should be allowed to rent like maybe out a room. Like, let's say you own a house, if you want to rent out a room or rent it out to a couple people, it should be allowed to. Like, I don't really see a problem with that. It's when you accumulate and buy multiple homes and you're exploiting rent from multiple, at that point you're just being a blood-sucking parasite or a leech, so to speak. And it's really the profiteering aspect that I take pause with, not so much the anything else. As long as you're not like a profiteer, profiteering should be illegal in the grand scheme of things, but as long as you didn't make that wealth profiteering, as long as that wealth was accumulated through, say, stream donations or selling a book, or let's say, you know, you sold, because apparently there were even, not really millionaires, but there were very wealthy people in the Soviet Union, you know, like famous actors, movie stars, musicians, authors. They were some of the most well-paid and well-off people in the country. Some of those people made more money than engineers. And so, like, politicians, being a politician in the USSR, like a high-ranking political official, you're going to get better wages and benefits, and like all in all, on average, you're going to have better shit than the average person. But the wealthiest people in the Soviet Union were like movie stars, actors, musicians, and like famous engineers. The people that it makes sense to be wealthy. You know what I'm saying? But anyways, that opens the door to kulak type crap or underground economy corruption. So you're fine with Hassan making hundreds of thousands of money a month since he isn't making it from, I mean, honestly, a degree of inequality is going to exist under socialism, whether you like it or not. Like, I don't think we're that far off from a stateless, classless, moneyless society. But again, you know, if someone becomes wealthy through non-exploitative means, I don't really have a problem with that. You know, I mean, good for you. What I have a problem with is people making money off of the hard work of others, or making money off the hard work of others while the average person is like starving. As long as there is poverty in the world, I mean, yeah, I have an issue with that. I don't mean to sound like Caleb Maupin or nothing. I hope I'm not giving anyone the impression that that I'm like slowly turning into Caleb Maupin. But yeah, the problem with Caleb Maupin is he doesn't differentiate and he doesn't clarify these things in regards to the exploitation aspect. That's why he's like socialist billionaires, but he never mentions exploitation. Whenever he gets challenged on, he's like, "Oh, so you want everybody to be poor, right? You want everybody to be poor." I'm like, no. The problem is you don't become a billionaire except through exploitation. That's the problem. Like, oh, so you want everyone to, like, bro, you're setting up these false dichotomies. All I'm saying is, as long as everybody's needs met, as long as everybody, you know, is relatively wealthy, and there's like a baseline standard of living, you know, we're not going to let anybody go on the streets. We're not going to let anybody go without food or health care, and or unemployment. And at the same time, we have that baseline standard of living. If one person happens to be relatively wealthy, like, I honestly, they're not hurting anybody. As long as they're not hurting or exploiting anybody, you know, I just don't see a problem with it. Plus, like, that kind of wealth is going to matter significantly less in a world free of exploitation, where you're not allowed to buy out, you're not allowed to invest and buy out hundreds of houses or buy a factory, so to speak. So at that point, money's going to more or less become kind of a symbolic thing, and it's mostly going to be spent on like luxuries or whatever. Be like, yeah, I've got millions of dollars, but I basically have nothing to spend it on. You know, outside of like luxuries, and I think that's how it should be handled. You just have luxuries, you have expensive, scarce things that people are allowed to buy. So yeah, I'm pretty sure Punk Ugopnik made a video saying the same thing as you did in his rich socialist video. I think socialists would still agree that there shouldn't be any. Yeah, no. Absolutely, there should be no billionaires. Like, again, yeah, and furthermore, you don't become a billionaire outside of exploiting wage labor, anyways. So, yeah, the only way to get that filthy rich, like, you didn't see billionaires until neoliberalism. That's the thing. Billionaires were not a thing until the advent of neoliberalism back in the 1980s during the Reagan era. Reagan made a lot of people rich, but he also made a lot of people poor. So yeah, no. Like, believe it or not, it actually is possible to become a millionaire through wage labor alone. Like, let's say you go to school for a decade and you get a job that's like very high in demand, like you get a professional engineering degree, or a doctor, like you become a physician. If you're tight with your cash over the course of about a decade and a half, you can become a millionaire in the system through wage labor alone. And this is why I say it's not about how much money you make, it's about the way in which you make money. And as long as that money was not made through some form of profiteering, racketeering, exploitation, I honestly don't have a problem with it. Who do I think's the worst president? I don't know, they all suck. But anyways, I guess we can move on to because I'm gonna be honest, I'm mainly talking about it for the not really clickbait, but just because it's recent news. Let's go to the Republican RNC. Let's talk about you'll never believe who the Republicans brought for their Republican National Convention. You guys are gonna love this shit. Starting this video off with UFC. Let's do it again. That's right, guys.
Good evening.
It's Deep Dick Dana White, big old Trump fan.
Ladies and gentlemen, I am Dana White. I am the CEO and president of the Ultimate Fighting Championship.
Good old Uncle Dana.
So 2 weeks ago, I got a call from President Trump asking me if I'd be willing to speak tonight. As usual, there was no pressure, no demands. He asked me as a friend, and of course I said yes. Then, after I accepted his offer, he sent me a text message, and I just want to read to you a little piece of what President Trump wrote to me. Dana, I'm so honored that you will be doing the introduction at the National Republican Convention.
For a second, I thought he was going to say, Dana, 60 G's, baby.
Think of it as the biggest fight you ever had, a fight for our country and even the world. I only wish you didn't have to interrupt your family trip, but I hope they understand they love you and they know how important this is.
Isn't Dana a woman's name?
Now think about this. This man's running for president of the United States. He's fighting for the future of this country, and he's concerned about interrupting my family trip. That's the President Trump that I know, a man who truly cares about people.
You don't care about working people. Yeah, no, but this is what I mean. So rich people actually do have empathy, believe it or not. They aren't just like cold-blooded lizards. They have empathy, but that empathy is exclusively reserved for other rich people. So it's a big, like George Carlin said, it's a big club, and you ain't in it. You and I are not in the big club, but Dana's in the big club, and he loves Donald Trump. That's for sure.
The mainstream media likes to push the narrative that he doesn't care about anyone but himself. I absolutely know that's not the truth because I've been friends with this guy for 25 years. And for the people who know me, they'll know this is true. I just want to make something very clear. Nobody in the Trump campaign has ever told me what to say. Nobody tells me what to say, and I'm nobody's puppet.
Yeah, I get it. You're gay for Trump. You are sexually attracted to Trump. You know, this kind of vindicates what I said in the previous live stream, that everyone has like at least a little bit of femininity in them, or every man has varying degrees of a bit of femininity in them, and every woman has varying degrees of masculinity in them. It's so I think there's something to it when they say gender is a spectrum. There definitely is something to it. You know, very, very few adults are pure men. Conversely, very, very few adults are pure women. Most people lean in the 80 to 90% area on one side or the other, and occasionally you get people that are like more near the center. You know, you get your transgender people, you get your non-binary people. You know, but I digress.
And I'm not telling you what to think. I'm telling you what I know. And I know President Trump. I know President Trump is a fighter. I've been saying this since 2015. Now look at what's happened over the last 10 years. We have all seen it with our own eyes. I'm in the tough guy business. And this man is the toughest, most resilient human being that I've ever met in my life.
I don't know about that.
The higher the stakes, the harder he fights. And this guy never, ever gives up.
So you see, this is what I'm talking about. Like, this is why I think the Republicans are going to win, and they're going to keep winning, because the Democratic Party is fundamentally incapable of inspiring this type of enthusiasm outside of, like, aging liberal boomers. That's, like, the main demographic, and, you know, dissuaded, discouraged lefties who feel like they don't have a choice and that there is no alternative. They don't inspire anyone. While on the Republican side, you've got, like, hyper machismo figures, like stereotypically super macho, like Dana White and Hulk Hogan even. As a matter of fact, let's go ahead and play that. What are you gonna do, brother, when the Hulk votes for you? Where's the sound? Check it out. If it isn't for real America.
Well, let me tell you something, brother. You know something? When I came here tonight, there was so much energy in this room. I felt maybe I was in Madison Square Garden getting ready to win another world title. Or maybe I thought the vibe was so intense. The energy was so crazy, it felt like maybe I was going to press that no-good, stinky giant over my head and slam him through the mat, brother. But what I found out was I was in a room full of real Americans, brother. And at the end of the day...
This is what a real American looks like. Exactly. If you don't have a handlebar mustache and blonde hair and do-rag on top of your head with shades, as well as, like, red skin, you may as well cash in your American card now. If you don't look exactly like this, handlebar, mustache, and all, cash in your American card now. You're not a real American. This is a real American. He fights for the right of every man. Every man except for, like, 99% of the population. Oh, yeah, Hulk Hogan's a pathological bullshitter. I don't know if you guys knew that, but he was, like, big on helping, like, I think Vince McMahon, you know, known human trafficker and convicted felon Vince McMahon, basically union bust for professional wrestling. Like, he was deep in the pockets of, like, Vince McMahon back in the day. Like, when pro wrestlers were trying to unionize, this guy was on the opposite end of what is otherwise a progressive struggle.
With our leader up there, my hero, that gladiator, we're going to bring America back together. One real American at a time, brother. You know something? I've seen some great tag teams in my time. Hulk Hogan and, ooh, yeah, the Macho Man Randy Savage. But you know something? I see the greatest tag team of my life standing upon us, getting ready to straighten this country out for all the real Americans.
How much are pro wrestlers paid? Shit is what they're paid. Hulk Hogan is like Vin Diesel. I mean, here's the thing about combat sports athletes in general, be it pro wrestling, and yeah, I do consider pro wrestling a martial art, even if the fights are staged. I mean, they're not fake, they're staged. There's nothing fake about what professional wrestlers do. I mean, even if the fight itself has a predetermined outcome, the gravity is real. The damage they take, the bumps they take. Honestly, being an MMA guy, I would much rather be locked inside a cage with another trained killer than thrown off a fucking 20-foot ledge onto concrete. Like, fucking MMA on its own is very hard on your joints, like your knees and your back. Like, knee, back, and hip injuries are quite common, along with concussions in MMA. But you want to know what's even worse on your joints than fighting another human being? Being thrown off a 20-foot ledge and landing onto concrete or what have you. Professional wrestlers, the level of toughness and grit that it takes to be a professional wrestler is, the fights might be staged, but the toughness and the grit involved is like at, if not a level above, mixed martial arts. That being said, professional wrestlers, the average pro wrestler gets paid shit. Same like the average cage fighter, actually. But at the very least, pro wrestlers have better career longevity because since the fights are staged, your opponent can work around whatever injuries you have, and you can have like a bout scheduled in which, let's say you've like a torn ACL, that'll be factored into the bout. If you've got a torn ACL and you go into a cage fight, that's the main difference. MMA and pro wrestling are opposites, but they're the same. They're the same in the sense that what gets you interested in the fight isn't the fight itself, but the story surrounding the fight and the characters involved. MMA and pro wrestling are a lot alike in this regard. Where they are opposites is that with professional wrestling, you are performing techniques and stunts on an opponent who is actively helping you perform those techniques and stunts. It is against an opponent whom you are cooperating with to perform the techniques and stunts. While in MMA, it is under live resistance against an opponent who is intelligently defending themselves. There's a big difference between picking up and slamming a person who's helping you pick them up and slam them versus picking up and slamming a person who is actively resisting your attempts to pick them up and slam them. Why are fascists always better at being charismatic? And it's not that they're more charismatic or they're better at being charismatic. It's that the left has no platform. That's it. Like, they just don't have a platform. Like, bro, put me on a stage in front of all these people and I would be able to talk to them the same way I'm talking to you guys right now. Like, if you don't think I'm charismatic, that's one thing. But I'm just saying, left-wingers do not get a platform in this country. They are not allowed time to talk. And whenever they do get a platform, it's usually a straw man or a caricature, just like a Chomsky type. Someone who's like the so-called compatible left, so to speak. There's a great essay about it called Noam Chomsky and the Compatible Left online. I might actually go through that in a minute now that we mention it. I'm going to look it up. Oh. Noam Chomsky and the Compatible Left. And like there's this really good essay that I read forever ago. It's like 70 pages long and it's just criticizing Noam Chomsky. This shit right here. I might actually go through that in the future, but anyways. What is your opinion on professional sports under socialism? Well, it'll certainly be less exploitative. Remember when I said I don't have a problem with people being millionaires under socialism? Well, I could definitely see people becoming millionaires within the context of like pro wrestling and combat sports in general. Like if, let's say you're the heavyweight champion of the world's premier mixed martial arts organization of the UFC. I mean, I don't have a problem with that. You've been taking punches to the face for a living for a long time. But my attitude is like, if you are a serious professional cage fighter or a boxer or whatnot, what needs to be factored in are the risks to your health and well-being, as well as your career longevity, because boxers and kickboxers tends to have better career longevity than MMA fighters because there's no grappling involved. When it comes to the wrestling and the jiu-jitsu, that is significantly harder on your joints than is boxing and kickboxing. While boxing and kickboxing is predominantly aerobic activity, it taxes the aerobic aspect of your cardiovascular system. Grappling taxes the anaerobic aspect, or the strength and power aspect of your cardio system. So, by design, MMA fighters are not going to have the same career longevity just based on the grappling. Like knee injuries, hip, back, shoulder injuries are so much more common in MMA. And as a result of the accumulative wear and tear on an athlete's joints, MMA fighters naturally have short careers. And there's a very limited window in which someone can be a professional fighter. And I would say that window is between the years 20 and 35, 40 at the oldest. I mean, don't get me wrong, you're going to have some freak of nature athletes that are competitive and able to win professional bouts in their 40s. But generally, they're the exception, not the rule. Fighting is a young man's sport in general. So I just think the athletes should not only be remunerated according to their labor, but they should be given a pension of sorts after their career is over. So let's say you've been, because you hear stories like that all the time with like professional fighters, like fucking, isn't Mark Coleman getting ready for a boxing match? Here, this guy right here, Mark Coleman, who is one of the OGs of the fight game. This guy is one of the first competitors. He's a former UFC champion. This is Mark Coleman. I mean, he's old now, but this guy right here, he's a former UFC champion. He's a collegiate wrestler. You got guys like Mark Coleman, who's old as shit now. He's got decades of wrestling, has permanently fucked his knees up. He's had like several surgeries. So yeah, this shit is really hard on the body. So Coleman, after a lifetime of wrestling and MMA, has bad joints. Mark Kerr is another one, but Mark Kerr was more so destroyed by his drug abuse than he was by like his wrestling or MMA. But yeah, Mark Kerr and Mark Coleman were members of Hammer House. These two guys right here. Yeah, I would recommend The Smashing Machine. It's a really good documentary. It's all about Mark Kerr. This behemoth specimen right here. Very troubled man with a lot of demons. Drug and alcohol abuse just destroyed him in the end. It's very sad. But yeah, now he is a car merchant up in, I believe, Columbus, Ohio. Mark Coleman, Mark Kerr, both these guys live in Ohio. They're both Ohio native. I want to pay Hammer House a visit sometime. But yeah, very, very tragic figure. Smashing Machine. It's a good documentary. But what I was going to tell was that, yeah, fighters should get a pension. They should receive some sort of pension into their retirement. Like, let's say you competed for 10 years. You should be getting a pension, like a baseline pension for your time in the game, at least 20 years or longer. Because these people are taking a beating for our entertainment. These people are taking damage for our entertainment. They're getting punched in the face. They're getting slammed. They're getting kicked. They're having their arms and legs twisted. They're getting strangled. Like, these people are taking physical damage to their physical bodily material being for the entertainment of vicarious onlookers. They shouldn't have to fucking be taking boxing matches well into their retirement when they're in their late 50s and can't fight anymore. And they shouldn't, like, have to be running a car shop when they're elderly either, like Mark Kerr. Like, I believe this is Mark Kerr today. Word on the street is that Mark Kerr actually misses being a professional fighter, but this is the man today. This is what he looks like today. Yeah, he's not really the specimen anymore. He's not the Smashing Machine anymore, but he ain't smashing people. He's smashing McDonald's now. That's what he looks like anyways. He's still the Smashing Machine. He's just smashing hamburgers instead of people now. And but yeah, it's just very tragic. What's wrong with Dana White having a woman's name? What if he's closeted gender fluid? That is an excellent question. Speaking of wrestling, did you know Trump said he would make a fight club for migrants that he deported? He said this twice. I would appreciate it if you would cite that claim, because I would like to react or review to it. Guys, remember to like the stream, by the way. Please remember to like the stream. It helps boost in the algorithm. If there's anyone here is a member of my Discord, anything you want me to react to or talk about, just send it to me via DM, and I'll check it out. As a matter of fact, does anyone send me anything? No? Messages. I've been a fan for 2 years. Cool. Good to know. I'll accept that. This message... this is the beginning of your direct message. Wow, so you're just going to delete the message? Is that it? What do we got here? Derek the Goat. Anywho, as I was saying, what are your thoughts on Hassan Abi? I've never seen you talk. I mean, I don't talk about him because I don't really know what to say of Hassan Piker. He's got good takes, I guess. Like, I've listened to him a few times. He generally... he's way more of a leftist streamer than Bosch or Destiny ever have been or ever will. I'll definitely say that about him. Do I think he's like... There was this controversy because he bought a house forever ago that was like $3 million from his streamer money, and people want to call him a hypocrite because he's well-to-do and also a social... Like, I just think it's dumb. I think liberals are just attacking him in bad faith because they have this imagined straw man that socialists believe everybody should be poor because historically socialist countries have been poor. Therefore, socialists believe in everyone being poor. I think it's dumb that people attacked him for that. But I do think he's full of shit for his motivations because he says he's buying it for his mother. He's buying the house so he has more room to film and do his content and make video. Bro, you bought that house in Beverly Hills for the bitches. Let's be real. You bought that house predominantly and exclusively for the bitches. That's all I'm saying. Just admit it, you know what I'm saying? I mean, I don't blame him either. I would buy an expensive house if it got me laid. You know what I'm saying? But anywho, am I an incel? That is an excellent question. I was back when I was 18, 19, 20 years old. I didn't know what inceldom was back then. Let me tell you something, man. I didn't lose my virginity until I was 21, and I was bitter as hell about it, too. All throughout high school, I was so socially awkward. I didn't know how to talk to women. I didn't have the confidence to talk to women or girls. The few times I did have any positive interactions in that area, they were mostly not... They were short-lived just because I didn't have the balls and the confidence, like the self-belief that I could, lay... Because there were a couple girls in grade school I could have definitely laid if I put my mind to it. Like, nowadays, I take confidence in knowing I can basically sleep with anybody I want if I put the legwork in. And that's the gospel truth. But yeah, I didn't lose my virginity till I was 21. And I'm 30 years old now, and I've been having sex ever since, so I wouldn't exactly call myself an incel. But, yeah. I was 21, lost my V card to a woman 21 years my senior. Ironically enough, I was 21, she was 42, and man! Whew, I had some good times with her. But anywho, what do I think of growing antinatalism? I don't know what... I didn't know there was growing antinatalism in the first place, comrade. I thought people were just having kids because they're too poor to afford them, and kids are expensive. So, yeah. He's dating a beautiful queen. Well, then good for him, man. I wish nothing but positive will on Hassan and his ventures. I don't dislike him, and I don't like him, but yeah, I like Hassan. But I also don't care for him. I'll link it to you in the DMs. Oh, hell yeah. Do it. Message request. Accept DM. Okay. But yeah, like the stream if you guys could. Hassan is probably the least worst politics streamer. Yeah, he's got good takes. At least he's, as low of a bar as this is, at least he's against genocide. Because he stands up for Palestine. He stands with Palestine. He was one of the first people to be pointing out the propaganda campaign of the IDF, Hasbara, and basically how the state of Israel will make up whatever bullshit that they want in order to I'm going to take this off screen because you're probably tired of seeing some fat white guy's face on screen. Instead, you can see some skinny white guy's face on screen. But as I was saying, he stands with Palestine, and that alone makes him based, because there is a surprising number of people. Well, I guess it's not surprising. It's more like sad, disappointing. There's a surprising number of people that are basically pro-genocide, and I know that I shouldn't be that surprised by it, given the current state of the world. But I would hope, at the very least, that people would be, after the Holocaust and after the various genocides over the centuries, I would hope that people can at least meet this very low bar of standing against and recognizing a genocide when it's going on right now. Let's see. He's dating a beautiful queen. I mean, yeah, I am, but... Oh, you're talking about me. Okay. As someone who didn't lose their virginity until 28, I feel you. Yeah, dude. It fucked with me, too. Like, it fucked with me a lot, because I felt like there was something wrong with me. I've interacted with girls back in those days, and I actually was like a full-on incel for like, I want to say a year and a half, 2 years maybe. But that was mainly because I was browsing politically incorrect on 4chan at the time, and they were spreading misogynistic propaganda, and I bought into it. And it's very interesting how right-wingers will ignore systemic issues until it affects them personally. Like, oh, I can't have sex with the women with which I have desire for, then it must be society's fault. But then, like, you can't get the healthcare you need, minimum wage. They're like, nah, fuck minimum wage, fuck healthcare. It should all be privatized. But then suddenly it affects you, and they're like, oh, imagine my shock. Let's see what I got. Oh, damn, the chat's been active. I don't know who Edgar Zombos is. Have I heard of the boy with Down syndrome who got mauled to death by Israeli attack dogs in Gaza? No. Again, send this shit to me over Discord if you have any resources. Otherwise, I'm just gonna keep talking to you guys. Hassan also doesn't condemn China, DPRK, Iraq. Yeah, based, exactly. And that these facts alone, the fact that Hassan meets the baseline low bar that I have for not being a piece of shit immediately makes him based, especially with the platform he has. As a communist, it's really principled of us. Is it really principled of us to have more than like $1 million or even a couple $100,000 in assets while there's still destitution and people on the verge of dying world around? Well, I mean, if you have a few $1 million, that's not going to end global poverty, brother. Having said that, you should definitely be putting a good chunk of that money in the direction of supporting or building the movements. You definitely shouldn't just live a life of luxury without sacrifice. You should be sacrificing or giving payments of whatever you can for the movement. What be it financially, be it materially, be it your time, your effort, your devotion. You should be devoting your time and effort and resources to the movement regardless. But if you have an exceptional amount of money on your hands, then yeah, say, I don't know, $10 million, you should donate at least $500,000, at least $500,000 of that 10 million towards like starting up co-ops or like to a union or whatever, or to a communist party. You should be devoting at least some of those resources to building up the movement. Yes. One of my biggest problems is at times he was for supporting the squad and, well, yeah, Democratic partisan's going to Democratic partisan. Why does most socialist communist countries start off as poor? For example, Russia was a semi-feudal state and it became socialist. China was semi-feudal state and it became socialist. Because the countries that have historically been the most backward, poor, undeveloped, or what have you, have been the ones where the development of communism is at its most of a necessity. You see, you have to understand that communism emerges as a byproduct of necessity. And you even see like non-communist states, like socialist states, social democratic states emerge, like Gaddafi's Libya. Gaddafi was not ideologically aligned with communism at all, and his state basically went socialist. You had Venezuela, you have Bolivia, you have a lot of these countries. The reason why they start off poor is because they, unlike the Western colonial powers, which had like a century head start to industrialize, these countries had no such privilege. The benefit of colonialism and the historical necessity of colonialism has been the fact that it's taken the knowledge and the labor contributions of people. It takes the scientific and mathematical contributions to human knowledge across the globe, and it centralizes it into one point, Europe. In other words, the scientific labor and resources from across the globe, various discoveries given people's various material conditions and their various observations globally, be it algebra in the Middle East, brain surgery in Latin America, or the crop cycles, the blast furnaces which existed down in Africa hundreds of years before they were invented in Europe, firearms, gunpowder from China. All of these inventions, all these innovations made by the human species, the most creative species there ever was, at least that we can see, and centralizes it into one point, Europe. And that is how we got that's a big part of how we got the Industrial Revolution. The rest of the world had no such benefit. The industrialization didn't start to spread to the rest of the world until it happened in Europe, and Russia was the poorest country in Europe at the time. China was arguably the poorest country on Earth at the time of their revolution. Go back in time 100 years, and these countries were all incredibly poor and destitute. Life expectancy was in the 20s. People didn't have running water. They didn't know how to read or do math. There was civil war, Cold War, famine. Like these countries were at war with other countries. People are dying left and right. You're starving. You got nothing but like a potato and a turnip to eat, and that's supposed to last you like a week. Of course people are going to fucking revolt. Of course there's going to be a popular revolt or revolution. Life sucked ass in Russia 120 years ago. That's the reason why people rebelled. Yo, FT, what do your friends think of me being a communist? They disagree with me. They perceive me in the same way as they kind of perceive far-right extremists. They think my ideology is crazy. But I'm just talking. Is it because feudal states had less money? I mean, that's a big part of it. It's just because they hadn't developed yet. They were just undeveloped countries. And their governments were failing oftentimes. They had weak governments in charge. There was World War. Let me tell you something, man. I truly believe World War is a prerequisite for the reemergence of communism, along with a strong workers' movement. But yeah, I digress. So what I was going to tell, though, was, I don't know what I was going to tell, but yeah, basically, a man who is almost 36 years old and has sex once in his life, and that was at age 20. Damn, we got a late bloomer in this audience. Like, nothing against Hassan, but shouldn't our policy be that no one gets luxuries until everyone isn't starving? I mean, yeah, I mean, I agree, but again, like, we live under capitalism, and someone becoming a millionaire through live streams isn't going to magically bring poverty to an end, brother. That being said, yeah, they should be donating a considerable amount of their spare wealth and resources to the movement. I personally think a future socialist communist society that there should be a large scaling back of combat sports in general. Well, that's just like your opinion, man. The problem isn't combat sports or anything. The problem is combat sports within the context of capitalism. If two people want to get in a cage and fight one another, I mean, that's their business. And some people just like to fight, man. Some people are just built different. That's all I'm saying. May as well make sure they're getting a good wage and fair payments and health care while they're doing it, because there's a sizable Like, you don't have to watch combat sports if you don't want to, dude. It's just one of my favorite pastimes. But yeah, don't like it, turn it off. That's all I have to say. Violence and testosterone-driven sports only serve to perpetuate aggressive behavior and normalize male violence. I mean, not all violence is bad, though. You know, if it's legally sanctioned consensual violence, it's not really a problem. But I think it's probably because people are more desperate. Yeah, we've already covered that topic. Sure, but even saving one life is still worth something like that, like for that person. Yeah, revolution anywhere would be ideal. Successful revolution. Very, very few people have 10 million, and out of the people that do, most of that is not in cash. Yeah, isn't like the saying that like the real wealth is tied up in assets. Hassan's much better than Jimmy Dore, that's for certain. Oh yeah, Hassan's not like a deliberate grifter that's like sticking his head in the stand and going la la la, I can't hear you, when it comes to like deliberate fascists within his audience. What do you think of China's one-child policy that they just ended? It's good that they ended it, but unfortunately the damage is already done. An educated population needs no controlling. That's the thing, man. The reason why the one-child policy is bad for China, or really just why it was bad in general, was because given a country like China that has historically been very patriarchal, favor tends to go to having a boy over a girl because the boy carries the family household name. The boy has a higher capacity for manual labor. The boy can work the farm better. The boy is carrying the honor of the house, and that's the reason why Chinese families tends to favor boys during the one-child policy. But as a result, there is now a disproportionate number of young boys as opposed to girls because Chinese families were selecting and favoring boys over girls. Now, I believe upon Chinese citizens beneath the age of 35, there's a disproportionate number of boys as opposed to girls. And as a result, you have a lot of mail order brides going on. You have bride napping, like literal bride napping. Like a Chinese man's getting married and his wife gets kidnapped and taken to the opposite side of the country so that she can be married off to some dude who can't get no nookie all the way over here in the countryside. Bride napping happens. You have a lot of single Chinese men that are going out and dating women from like Japan, Korea, Vietnam. Personally, I think the best solution to the problem is, so you have a shortage of women but a surplus of men here in China. On the other hand, you have a surplus of women but a shortage of men in Russia. Why not? You know what I'm saying? Why not bring these two groups together? You can have all the Chinese men dating all the Russian women and all the Russian women dating the Chinese men. And I feel like that would be a perfect solution to the current demographic crisis going on in China and the Russian Federation alike. Okay, story of dog. Oh, perfect. Okay. Okie doke, artichoke motherfuckers on the float. Let's do it. So apparently, one of my audience members, thank you, comrade. I'm going to read a few more of these. Let's do it. Sent you the story. Have you heard of the boy with Down syndrome? Yeah, someone just sent me that story. Hey, did you ever fall into the alt-right pipeline? I mean, yeah, I kind of did for a brief period. That was a decade ago, over a decade ago, and I'm happy to realize how stupid I was back then for falling for it. Let me tell you something, man. Being a virgin or not being able to get laid is like, I feel like it's like a prerequisite for being an extreme right-winger. Because back when I was like 18, when I was browsing 4chan, I was just a shit-posting nerd dweeb. I like instantly became a misogynist. I started following like men going their own way channels, a bunch of right-wing content, and I'm thankful that I grew out of that. I'm very thankful that I grew out of that, and it was only a brief early phase in my life. And it's so crazy. I don't think it's a coincidence that at the same time I grew out of being a right-wing misogynist was at the exact same time that I finally got laid. I don't think that's a coincidence at all. As it turns out, as crazy of a concept as this sounds, women are much more likely to have sex with you if you don't see them as inferior, or you don't see them as objects or as tools to be used and discarded. I know, it's a crazy concept. I didn't know it at the time, but yes, women are indeed human beings like you and me. And if you are misogynistic, socially awkward, or you've got something seriously wrong with you, women are more in tune with their emotional intelligence, so they're going to pick up on that shit very quickly. Is China going to be socialist in 2050? No. I played hockey and all my childhood, and we ain't taking fighting out even under communism. Social fighting can be a part of the... Honestly, man, I don't even think under communism, two blokes fighting one another should be like against the law. Like if two people have a problem with one another and they want to fight it out, I say let them fight it out. You know what I'm saying? Like I'll tell you what, man. When I was in grade school and I was getting picked on, like back in like 4th, 5th grade, people were picking on me left and right. I beat the fuck out of the dude who did it. What can I say? I beat his little ass, and he and his little friend stopped picking on me anymore. But that's race mixing, and that's bad. I mean, yeah, I know, right? I mean, I for one, for all this talk of black people being inferior, I think Gaddafi was onto something when he said that he felt like black. This is like objective fact, by the way. This is actually how he felt, but he said that like African women, very dark-skinned African women, were like the best women on earth, and they were like superior women, and that he felt like he wanted to make his country more African or more black. So he like actively encouraged a lot of like the Arabic men in Libya to take on African, like black African wives. I just think that's kind of funny. I'm just saying, I think Gaddafi was onto something. I'm just saying, I prefer my women of a darker shade. I'm not against dating white women. You know, I've dated white women before. I'm just saying, like, I like me women with some color. But that is just my objectively correct opinion. Hey, I'm a virgin and I'm Finn. I want you to know, don't be discouraged and do not let that hold you back. It is an easier problem to fix than you might think. All you got to do is meet yourself some girls, treat them the way that you would like to be treated, and if you're hanging out with a woman and you guys are vibing, chilling, you notice you two are getting along, just ask her out. It's that easy. I mean, don't go around. Some guys will tell you just go around asking every woman out. Just ask out and run the numbers game. But in my opinion, I don't really think that's necessary. I think if you find yourself physically attracted to someone, you should go over and get to know them and talk to them about it, or just talk to them in general, get to know them, and you'll know it when you see it, and you'll know it when you feel it. There are signs, there are cues, there's a spark, and if you notice that you have the spark with this person, I'm always able to tell when a woman is smitten with me. I'm older now, I'm wiser now. I couldn't tell back in the day because I was jackass and insecure virgin incel, but nowadays I can tell when a woman is smitten with me. And if you're around women long enough, bro, and you hang out with enough women, sooner or later you're going to start to pick up on the cues and signs, and you'll know when a woman is smitten with you, is all I'm trying to say. And if a girl's smitten with you, if you know for certain, ask her out. Even if you don't know for certain, I mean, fuck it, ask her out anyways. Maybe she does like you, she's just not giving you cues. But there's a lot of things that are said within conversations that are also unspoken. Believe it or not, I think there really is something to the phrase that most of the conversing that happens between two human beings is nonverbal. I think there's something to that. Martial arts like wrestling, judo, and sambo were heavily promoted in the USSR. I know. Gaddafi also sounded a bit like a national social. Yeah, no. Here's the problem with Gaddafi, bro. Let me tell you about the problem with Gaddafi, and it's the same problem. It's his version of socialism is a similar strain of revisionism to Juche, in the sense that it puts national identity and ethnicity, like unity under a national identity, over unity over class basis. That's the problem with Juche, and that's the problem with Gaddafi's Green Book, is that he deprioritizes the class struggle in the favor of this vague pan-Arab nationalist identity. It is definitely a right-wing concept, though I wouldn't exactly call Gaddafi or Kim Il-sung right-wingers. They were definitely not. They were more right-leaning. They were more rightist-leaning than some, but I would not exactly call them right-wingers. They were both definitely socialist countries. It's just when you get revisionism like that, where national identity is placed over class identity or shared collective class unity, you run into a lot of problems. The problem Gaddafi ran into is that he tried to unite the various melting pot of Arabic tribes, because there were hundreds of tribes across Libya, and he tried to unite them all based on pan-Arab unity, and unfortunately it didn't work. So this is the problem with his lack of Marxism, and it's interesting how he came to a lot of the correct conclusions that he did without Marxism. Like, Gaddafi was a political genius in a lot of ways, despite his shortcomings. I still like him, even though he's not a Marxist, you know? I was interested in knowing your... Oh, yeah, here, I'm about to get to it. There was a man that just died in Spain that was 110. He was a veteran of the Republicans during the based. Very based. Regarding incels, they should be treated with a lot more compassion than lib reactionaries. I mean, yeah, but you can only treat them with so much compassion before you need to hold them accountable for their misogynistic bullshit. Sorry if this sounds rude, but are you in an open relationship? I remember saying you had a girlfriend, but now you're saying you get... Well, what I'm saying, I didn't say I get laid all the time. I'm saying that I can tell when a girl is sexually attracted to me. And I can definitely tell when I'm sexually attracted to a girl back. And it happens, it's more common than you think. But I'm in a committed relationship, and I've already cheated on my girl once. I'm not going to do it again. I'm just saying I can tell if a girl's attracted to me. Like, I know. Like, there have been times where I've been out in public and a girl goes out of her way to talk to me. You know, the way she's looking me up and down. And the second she's touching the second she touches my face, I'm like, yeah, right there. I knew this girl was smitten. But yeah, that's all I'm saying is, like, you'll know what to pick up on when you see it. You'll know the cues or the signs. Like, if a girl is going out of her way to talk to you, I mean, this is true for men too, you know, regardless of sexual orientation. If somebody is going out of their way to talk to you, if they're being flirty, they're touching you, they're brushing up against you, they take a particular interest in you, they have, like, their eye pupils are, like, sunken in, like they're, like, shrunken. Like, if their eye pupils are shrunken, one of the number one tells that someone is attracted to you is if you look, it's in the eyes. You can see it in the eyes. Whenever people want something, their pupils shrink and their eyes light up, and you'll see the spark when you know it. But if they've got that spark in their eyes, if they're laughing at your unfunny jokes, if they're smiling a lot, they're being all flirty and playful with you, if they take a particular interest in you, and they're like playing with their hair and all that, and they're like biting their lip, these are all signs. You'll know the signs when you see them. And when you see the signs, all you have to do is break the ice. Just get their number, ask them out, or what have you. That's the main thing, is culturally, be it culturally, genetic, or whatever, women generally don't ask men out. It's generally on men to break the ice and to basically get something going, get it started. So yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm B100 for all the incels in chat. Get to also know their relatives, because you don't want to get stuck in a toxic relationship. People put on a mask when they're smitten. Oh yeah, absolutely. Best thing you can do is dating a girl, get on good terms with her dad. If you can get on good terms with your dad, that's a great way to seal the deal, because if he hates your fucking guts, he's going to go out of his way to make sure that relationship doesn't happen. So yeah, the guy's name was Matteo Balbenwa. I cannot pronounce that. He was born on the 13th of September. I'm not sure I would call the ideology that incels believe in that says that women care about looks above all else is misogyny. The insult that, okay, so here's the thing. Human beings in general are very vain and shallow creatures. And I know this because I'm a very vain and shallow creature. People judge one another based off physical appearance alone all the time. It is very, very commonplace. So I think the incels are correct when they emphasize the importance of your physical appearance and your presentation. Because presentation's everything, man. If you make a YouTube video and you can't hook people in the first few minutes because of your shit presentation, then they're not going to digest the information you're trying to present them. And it's the exact same thing with like making friends, getting to know people, or like relationships. You know what I'm saying? So like, obviously a girl is way less likely to go out with you if you look like a fucking bum. So unless you have some sort of like redeeming quality that overshadows your ugliness or your poor presentation, you know. Let's say you I don't know, let's say you have a shit ton of money. You have lots of money, you've got stacks of cash lined up in the motherfucking bank. You've got let's say you're a really good cook, you're really funny, you're part of a famous rock band, you've got a gigantic cock. If you're not physically attractive, you got to have something else to redeem it, you know, be it the being a part of a band, you know, famous rock star, lots of money, you're a fantastic cook, you're funny, you got a gigantic dick. Like you have to have a redeeming quality in order to compensate, is all I'm trying to say. But in general, yeah, you should strive to be as physically attractive as you can. And the good news is that most men are conventionally attractive, more conventionally attractive than they give themselves credit for. 90% of the dudes that are quote unquote incels would have much better luck with the opposite sex if they just presented better, stopped associating with people of a similar toxic mindset, and just literally interacted with girls. Like, just start working out, you know, diet and exercise, take better care of yourself. Don't take shit too seriously. Don't take it personally. Just learn to let go, man. Sometimes you just got to learn to let go. That's all I'm saying. I'm not sure. Yes, sexism should be combated like fascism. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. There should be more discussion on the left towards community building to alleviate the conditions for sexism. Yeah. Unironically, yeah. I would say that patriarchy gets in the way of men getting laid like a lot. I would say the dismantling of patriarchy would definitely, most definitely go a long way in helping incels out, and they don't even realize it. And I say this because there's an analogy about the master key and the poor lock. If a key opens a lot of doors, it's a good key. If a door opens to a lot of different keys, it's a bad lock. In other words, slut shaming. Women are actively discouraged in society and culture, for the most part, from being open about their sexuality, from asking dudes out, associating with dudes. All the pressure is placed on men to break contact, basically. And not only that, but like women are shamed and mistreated, and you know it's seen as a bad thing if a woman has a lot of sex and is like openly sexual in our society. You know, a girl who sleeps around is called a slut or a whore. A guy who sleeps around is called he's called a player. He's called a Chad. You know what I'm saying? So like, I think dismantling that whole dynamic between sex and dating would go a long way in helping men, because men don't realize how much they get, like conservative men especially, don't realize how much they get in their own way by shaming women for being openly sexual. Like, they don't realize, like, a girl is not going to want to sleep with you if, like, you're making her feel bad for wanting to sleep around, you know? Obviously. And it should be obvious to more people. I just think men get in their own way in this regard, and I think conservative society and culture get in this way in regard. Like, because I'm all for, I'm all for women's liberation, brother. Like, I'm all for it. It benefits men and it benefits women. It's literally good for the physical and mental well-being of both sexes that patriarchy gets dismantled along with traditional gender norms. But anyways, Oh yeah, like not looking like a total fucking bum. That's what I'm saying. We need to go back to the Middle Ages and make state-guaranteed wives. I concur. I 100% concur. While we're at it, we need a forced feminization of all conservative men. Forced sterilization, feminization of conservative men. But only them specifically. Everyone else is cool. Just them. Everyone deserves to be themselves rather than follow these artificial trends and popular ideas. Well, I understand standard beauty. Beauty standards do vary from culture to culture, but I do think there are some universal things like just good diet and exercise, take care of your skin, shower, brush your teeth, just wear some nice clothes, look presentable. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying you got to be like some hardcore like. I'm not saying you got to be like Giga Chad Maximus over here, you know. And like all I'm saying is just take decent care of yourself and like interact with people. The more women you interact with, the more likely you are to meet one who is attracted to you. And it makes perfect sense. So if you don't have a hobby that involves a lot of women, pick up a hobby that involves a lot of women. I hear there's a lot of chicks that are involved in cycling and long distance running. That'll get you in pretty good shape. If you're still in grade school, just do an art club. There's a lot of women who love painting and love doing art. If you, or better yet, just make female friends. Sometimes, and in fact, all the time, whenever you're approaching a female, you should always do it as though you want absolutely nothing from them. You don't want to make your intentions known at the onset. You want to wait a bit, but making female friends and having female friends is a great way to meet females as well, because women generally hang out with other women. And speaking from personal experience, you know, you're gonna meet women who like you. Just if you interact with enough of them. Sooner or later, it's like not a matter of if but when. It's only a matter of time before you find somebody who likes you back. That's all. Anyways, yeah, let's go ahead and get to that. I've been running my mouth for the last half hour. Let's go to this article. I apologize, guys. That was my incel dating advice rant. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to get myself a glass of water. In the time being, I'm gonna play some good shit for you guys. Let's see. We'll do this one. This is a good hip hop song. One of my favorites. Anyways, I'm gonna go get myself some water. I will be right back.
The 3-6 Mafia, lounging in the studio. Finna give y'all a little demonstration of how we kick it here in the M-Town. Finna drop it something like this.
See, in Memphis, them players we kinda like laid back. In some clean ass rides, runs in the sack, but blowing the pack, hitting the park at about 3, sometimes a little later. The last day of the week, and they couldn't get any greater. They leaving the pocket, hitting that Southpaw strip. Ride the South Gate, skating ring later on the night. We in the lot, moving our underground rap test, falling juicy part 2, and for another one, they just couldn't wait. We back at the crib, sweating in a little room. W30s, SB12, and MPCs we use straight from the 4-track to a simple cassette. They still will press them up. Now it's time to hit the stereo to collect. We at the club, Friday, Saturday, special requests made. Me and Juice Man hit the table, scoop and scarecrow rock the stage. They get so bumped that some fools always gotta start a fight. They usually made us close up early that night. In the summer.
With my groove, it doesn't ride.
In the summer.
With my groove, it doesn't ride.
In the summer.
With my groove, it doesn't ride.
In the summer.
With my groove, it doesn't ride.
Drunk over a dog as we walk through the mist of fall. These scarecrow crutches, skinny jean in my roadie paw. Block got his mind up in the sky, yes, we chiefin' her. Black locks that's in the ride, aiming for one homicide. Some Tangeray, grandma yay, mixed with little seeds. That's how we always did it since I was a troubled kid. But we don't stop, cause our heart is pumping blood like thunder. No man up in the trauma, heat is supposed to see the summer.
Some of the scarecrow won't start ceremonies till the sun sets me ease.
until the nightfall breeze. Rise up to the darkness, listen close to noises in the streets. Grab my OC of Indonesia, 6 Philly blunt leaves. Throw on me black khaki slacks and me black t-shirt and my automatic at in case I had to dig a plot of dirt. Then hit Paul up on this home, tell him to bring his slow ass on so we can hit the honeycomb before the ganja's gone. The summer.
With my groove, we just ride.
In the summer.
With my groove, we just ride.
The summer.
With my groove, we just ride.
All right, I'm back. All right. What I miss? What are your thoughts on the Kendrick Drake beef versus Drake beef? You should check out the Palestinian rapper Bahr in a minute, yeah. But for now, I'm finally gonna go over this. So apparently, new secret leaks from Trump's top RNC speaker. Oh no, this is the wrong thing. Let me pull this up. Someone sent me this 20 minutes
So
ago.
once again, we here at the Midas Touch Network are going to have to report on details that the corporate media refuses to do. They want to talk about how the Republican National Convention is all about unity and bringing down the temperature. It absolutely isn't. They are passing out signs that say mass deportation now. They are breaking out in chants that say send them home. The other chants that they are breaking out in is fight, fight, fight. The theme of this is fighting. It is violence. And the people who Donald Trump has speaking before he gives his speech are supposed to be emblematic of that, of fighting. So you may know by now that Hulk Hogan, the WWE former wrestler, he's going to be speaking at the Republican National Convention. Notably, no Paul Ryan, no George W. Bush, no Liz Cheney, no Mike Pence, but you have Hulk Hogan given a prime time spot. And then you also have Dana White, who owns the Ultimate Fighting Championship. It's all about the theme of fighting. Well,
yeah, that's some solid analysis. I didn't think of it like that. Yeah, no, it makes perfect sense that he would bring in Hulk Hogan and Dana White for the RNC. That actually makes perfect sense. There's a fascist movement to brewing.
Here at the Midas Touch Network have uncovered audio of the speaker of Hulk Hogan, who'll be speaking before Donald Trump, who has a prime time spot. Take a look at what Hulk Hogan once said. Now, I want to give you a trigger warning. He says some hateful and racist things. This is the individual who is now representative of the Republican Party. Here, play this clip.
So at the point where I was fucking like a son with a hand.
Wait, what? Hold on. I don't know if Brooke was fucking the black guy's son. Or they've been hanging out. I caught them holding hands together. I'm a racist to a point, fucking. I'm not going to say that on stream because I'm not committing political suicide, but yeah. Wow. So this is what right-wingers are actually like in private. I know the whole analogy for dog whistling, but this is how they really feel. And this is part of what makes me appreciate Sacha Baron Cohen so much, because he gets right-wingers comfortable with expressing how they really feel. And that's part of what makes Sacha Baron Cohen's humor so funny to me. He made a new series with a bunch of new fake identities called Who is America? I highly recommend it. It's a pretty good show. Where he just dresses up as a bunch of caricatures, and while undercover basically gets racist, bigoted pieces of shit and liberals and conservatives, Democrats to basically act how they really feel about things, no mask on. There was one time he was pretending to be some wealthy Middle Eastern sex trafficker while trying to buy a yacht. And the guy trying to sell him the yacht's just, he's saying I need a room that can hold 10 to 20 women. And the yacht dealer is like, yeah, we can get you that. He's like, I have a unique need for holding women in this room, implying he's a human trafficker. And the yacht merchant's like, yeah, we can get you a yacht like that, bro. He's just casually yeah, I can help you be a human trafficker. Yeah.
Can't say.
I don't give a fuck if she basketball player. If we're gonna fuck with N-words, let's get a rich, one of the good ones, in other words. Holy shit. Hulk Hogan is just basically expressing the psychology of Republicans right now. Of course, this is not going to affect Trump at all. He's immune to scrutiny. I still think he's going to be president. Like, after how shit Biden's been running the economy, I do not believe Trump is going to lose. I don't think Biden's going to win. After 4 years of Biden's bullshit, I don't think they're going to be able to muster the same political will to blue no matter who Biden back into office another 4 years.
And so you know what he said? Hulk Hogan said, I don't know if Brooke, referring to his daughter, was effing the black guy's son. I mean, I don't have double standards. I mean, I am a racist to a point, effing N-word. But then when it comes to nice people and S-word and whatever, I mean, I
don't know if Brooke was fucking the black guy's son. I mean, I don't have double standards. I mean, I am a racist to a point, fucking N-words. But then when it comes to nice people, so Hulk Hogan just casually being a piece of shit. Okay. I mean, I'd rather, if she was going to fuck some N-word, I'd rather her marry an 8-foot-tall N-word worth $100 billion, like a basketball player. I guess we're all a little racist fucking N-word.
Rather she was going to F-word, some N-word. I'd rather have her marry an 8-foot-tall N-word worth $100 million, like a basketball percent of league revenues. Here he is. And again, another trigger warning here. Here was a video of Dana White. And again, trigger warning, you'll see domestic violence here, but watch this.
Oh yeah, never forget Dana White slapped the fuck out of his wife one time. I forgot to mention that.
And so as that's taking place, and as one of the main theme is mass deportations now and send them back, corporate media was actually doing their jobs. They would have been reporting on what we've been talking about here on the Midas Touch Network. One of the things that Donald Trump says that he wants to do when he is in office. And he says that he said he proposed this.
They ain't mass deporting shit. They ain't mass deporting shit. They couldn't. So what? You're gonna deport 8 million undocumented immigrants out of the country, some 8 to 10 million people. You're going to drag families like old people and women and children out of their homes and send them back to wherever. To just why? Do you have any idea like how much immigrants net value to our economy and our country? And how bad it would actually be for our economy if we were to actually deport all these people or enforce border policy the way that it's supposed to be enforced. Here's the thing, you guys. The reason why ICE exists, the true reason, is it's a component of class warfare. Same with the detention centers, same with the border security and control altogether. What border patrol and security and the deportation, it's about the looming threat of sending these people back so that they don't unionize, because there are a lot of wealthy and powerful people who directly benefit from migrant labor, and these are Republicans, by the way, wealthy Republican donors benefit from migrant labor, and they use the threat of deportation to terrorize immigrants so that they don't get together and organize or unionize. That's what that's about. That's the real reason why ICE exists. It's to break up immigrant families. It's to break up working class immigrants, keep them disorganized and disrupt their proletarian class activities, and to keep them from fighting for their material interests. And while they're doing that, at the same time, looking to alienated white workers in America and using the threat of immigration towards their jobs. Be like, don't blame the corporation that's hiring these people under the table for replacing you. Blame the people that are even bigger victims of this system than you are. You know what I'm saying?
He went to Dana White, and he wanted to propose a fighting league where the UFC fighters would get to attack the migrants who are rounded up, and he would have a fight league for the migrants who were taken as part of these roundups. Here, play this clip.
Tough. It is so tough. Dana White. Did anyone ever hear of Dana White? He's a legend, right? UFC, ultimate fighter, ultimate fighting, and he's a fantastic man. I said, Dana, I have an idea. Why don't you set up a migrant league of fighters and have your regular league of fighters? And then you have the champion of your league. These are the greatest fighters in the world. Fight the champion of the migrants. I think the migrant guy might win. That's how tough they are. He didn't like that idea too much, but actually it's not the worst idea I've ever had.
And just so you know, I'm not cherry picking one speech. I'll show you him say the thing in another speech. He says the same exact thing. One of the things that the leader of the Republican Party is proposing is to have a fight club where professional UFC fighters attack immigrants. Play the clip.
I told Dana White of UFC, I said, here's what we're going to do. You know, these are tough cookies coming into our country. He's coming with prisons and mental institutions. I said to Dana White, UFC, he's got a big fight going on right now. He's a good friend of mine. You know what he said the other day? They said, who's the toughest person you've ever met? He said, definitely Donald Trump. He said, Donald Trump. How about that?
Yeah. Donald Trump is the toughest person ever. Don't you know? Born with a platinum spoon in his mouth, given a small loan of $1 million by his father, went bankrupt several times, crashed and burned several businesses. This is what I hate about the mythology that capitalists take risks, and that capitalists, they take risks, they work hard, and because fundamentally they're not the ones that ever suffer for any of the risks that they take. It's always the workers that they employ who suffer. If the business fails, generally the capitalist stays rich. Rich people fuck up all the time. Donald Trump fucks up all the time and he's still rich. The people that suffer are always working people. That's always the fallout. It's they privatize the gains, socialize the losses. We're the ones that get fucked. So Donald Trump's not a tough bastard at all. If we're going to talk about tough bastards, like the average UFC fighter is a tough bastard. Like that's toughness. That's grit. Donald Trump is not tough. He's a wealthy, rich oligarch selling the veneer of populism to the right.
But I said, Dana, I have an idea for you to make a lot of money. You're going to go and start a new migrant fight league. Migrants, only migrants. And then at the end of the year, the champion migrant is going to fight your champion. And
This isn't controversial, though. Like, everyone in the audience agrees with him because they're all racist bastards.
hate to tell you, Dana, I think the migrant might win. That's how tough they are.
Then, of course, there's the language that Donald Trump uses and saying that immigrants are poisoning the blood of America, which is very similar to a line that Adolf Hitler talked about, poisoning the blood. Here, play this clip.
Country, when they do that, we got a lot of work to do. They're poisoning the blood of our country. That's what they've done. They poison mental institutions and prisons all over the world, not just in South America, not just the 3 or 4 countries that we think about, but
well, the scary and fucked up part about this too is the fact that Trump is basically paving the way for the aforementioned American Hitler. That's basically what he's doing by using this rhetoric and talking like this. He's paving the way for someone even more right-wing to come along and capitalize on the political foundation established by Trump.
all over the world, they're coming into our country from Africa, from Asia, all over the world. They're pouring into our country. Nobody's even looking at them. They just come in. They cry.
Maybe stop ruining their countries and they'll stop coming over here. In my experience, the Dems are cowards and the GOP are actually evil. Even the rank and file GOP voters. Listen at enough keyholes and you'll find out how evil your GOP grandparents really... Yeah. Nah, the Republicans suck, dude. In general, thankfully, they're a shrinking minority. Only like 10% to 20% of the American population are Republicans. Only a small minority of people. Like, believe it or like, guys, the Republicans are not a majority. Like, majority of Americans are not Republicans. We're talking, at the most, 20% of the population here. So we have more of a chance than you might think.
Is going to be tremendous. Terrorism is going to be, and then we built a tremendous piece of the wall, and then
Lumen is the world's first handheld metabolic coach. It's a device that measures your metabolism through your Midas. LUMEN.me/Midas are 15s being given out with various raffles. So when you go to the RNC, you could win a free AR-15. It's one of the first things that you see when you arrive there. Should also be noted, an interesting connection with
right-wingers are so obsessed with guns, it's almost comical, dude. Like, you really think if someone busts into your home and you wake up and you're surrounded and they all have guns pointed at you, what you think your little ARs that you've got in the closet over there is going to protect you? If someone catches you off guard and you don't see it coming, that gun ain't going to do shit to save you, dude. The only way it will is if you are aware of the attacker moments before it happens. Like, this culture is just so dominated by fear. it's so dominated by fear. It's so crazy. Like, that's really, if you think about it, that's all the gun industry is, the firearm industry is. It's a fear-based industry. Fear of someone who's going to attack you, fear of an invasion, fear of this, fear of that. Like, I'm not going to lie to you guys. I feel like it's bluster. Because I've heard Republicans say it would be impossible to invade America because we have too many guns, and it would be too hard to take over America because we have too many guns, you know? But I honestly, I think it's all bullshit. Because the average Republican, I think most Republicans are honestly like cowards. They're afraid of a hypothetical attack that may or may not happen. What makes you think they have the mind state to defend off with how fucking spoiled and fat Americans are? With how cushy and comfy people are here, and like how placated Americans are? You think they're going to have the toughness or the grit to resist an invading military force during a war? Maybe the ones that have been in the army will, but I'm just saying, for all the bluster of the right wing in this country, in their heart of hearts, they are cowards. That is all. The U.S. military can, has, and will be defeated. And it's been defeated before, and it's going to be defeated again. It was arguably defeated in Afghanistan.
Hulk Hogan.
The only time America's won wars, the only time this country wins wars since World War II has been when it has had overwhelming superiority over the enemy. I'm talking jet fighters, aircraft carriers, state-of-the-art weaponry, the cutting-edge drone technology. That's the only time that this country wins wars, is when it has overwhelming superiority. But if we face an enemy that is on relatively equal footing to us, we will lose, especially if we're the invaders. Like, we couldn't even fucking occupy and take over Afghanistan. I'd love to see the United States try to, like, occupy and take over, like, say, India or Iran. Never forget the Millennium Falcon Challenge, in which warheads in Washington simulated a hypothetical war with Iran. And after this $200 million simulation was ran, it ended with the U.S. military getting decimated. Look it up, the Millennium Challenge of like 2004. America would lose a conventional war with Iran. There's a lot of conventional wars that the United States loses. That's why we fall back on sanctions and our military bases, super carriers, and political clout to basically leverage and control other countries.
That the PayPal co-founder, Peter Thiel, bankrolled Hulk Hogan's lawsuit defamation case against Gawker, which resulted in Gawker becoming bankrupt. Now, Peter Thiel is the individual who worked with J.D. Vance. And a lot of these speakers have also worked with Peter Thiel before, but J.D. Vance worked with Peter Thiel. When people talk about J.D. Vance's background, before J.D. Vance went to Ohio and created a sham charity where J.D. Vance lied and claimed that he was providing money to people suffering as part of the opioid crisis, but in reality, he was funding his own political ambitions and actually funding a researcher who worked with Purdue Pharma, which made OxyContin. Before that, J.D. Vance made his money working for Peter Thiel as a venture capitalist in San Francisco after he graduated from law school. Should also be noted, one of the things that we're seeing at the Republican National Convention, when we talk about hypocrisy and the Republican Party, the Grindr app has had so many outages because of how frequently it's being used right now in Milwaukee. Also, former Republican Congress member George Santos,
who's met husband on Grindr, calling the RNC the Grindr super. That's very funny. But it also makes perfect sense because right-wingers... It makes sense that a lot of right-wingers are gay, though. That's the thing, because pretty much all of the repressed closet homosexuals tend to be the biggest homophobes. Like, the situation is, these guys are gay. They're taught their entire lives that being gay is bad, and they hate themselves for it, so they're, like, deeply repressed. And, yeah, that's how the cookie crumbles. So they just project that hatred onto others.
who met his husband on Grindr, is calling this RNC convention the Grindr Super Bowl and urges gay Republicans in attendance to come out of the closet. And by the way, J.D. Vance previously said that he would oppose any sort of Marriage Equality Act. Here, play this clip.
Outgoing Senator Rob Portman is co-sponsoring.
That makes perfect sense. It makes sense that a gay Republican is opposed to gay marriage. It actually makes perfect sense.
sponsoring the Marriage Equality Act that will codify same-sex marriage. Are you ready to support that bill? Why or why not?
Mr. Vance, we start with you. Yeah, so I've come out against this bill, and I don't think it's actually about gay marriage. It's not about same-sex marriage or same-sex equality. Look, gay marriage is the law of the land.
Of course it is. It absolutely is. That's a lie. This man's selling you wolf tickets. He's lying to you.
In this country, and I'm not trying to do anything to change that, but if you look at the specific bill that's being proposed, it wouldn't just codify something that's already enacted in law. It would actually make it easier for both the government and a lot of private parties to sue religious organizations if those religious organizations don't comply with the dictates of the federal government. I'm a devout Christian, and I think it's important to protect religious liberty in this country. We remember about 10 years ago when the Obama administration, I'm sure supported by Tim Ryan, went after a group of Catholic nuns because that Catholic nunnery wanted to run its organization the way that confirmed with its religious beliefs. That should be okay in this country. And the problem with this legislation is it's going to unleash a wave of litigation against our churches, our religious organizations, our mosques, our synagogues, everything. That's why.
Yeah, but he's mainly referring to the churches. It's so crazy to me that like the entire foundation of the Republican Party is just based on selling you wolf tickets because they don't actually stand for any of the shit that they claim to stand for, like small government. No, you don't. You support our giant overbloated military that ruins the world. You were some of the first people to vote for the bailouts of the banks in order to save the crashing capitalist economy every time it happens. Small government? Nope. Yeah, it's small government when it comes to firearms, maybe. And even then, Republicans are in favor of gun control as long as it's against minorities. Whole Republican Party is just based on selling you wolf tickets. That's why, like, I don't blame right-leaning people for supporting the Republicans over the Democrats. But on the other hand, just because the Democrats suck and they're hypocritical and they're oppressive and repressive does not make the Republican Party good. They are just as bad, if not worse, in a lot of cases than the Democrats.
I don't think it's a great idea.
Thank you, Mr. Vance. Congressman Ryan, same question.
Yeah, I voted for that in the House of Representatives. I will support codifying that into the Senate. But only J.D. Vance can say that the bill that codifies same-sex marriage is not about same-sex marriage. Only J.D. You're the only one, J.D. Vance, that can actually say that. It's unbelievable. The problem.
So the theme of this Republican National Convention is fight, fight, fight. Donald Trump is inviting on stage Hulk Hogan, who said those types of things before, and then he's inviting Dana White to give him the introduction. Let's just call this out for what it is and what's happening. And then while all this is happening, Donald Trump is posting, of course, saying January 6th is a hoax. Trump is attacking a woman who he was found liable of sexually assaulting and saying he doesn't know her and saying horrible things about her in posts, spreading lies also about the January 6th insurrection. And then Donald Trump, of course, we reported this before, but it's worth repeating.
Insurrection. I love how it's characterized as an insurrection when all it was a riot. Like, all that happened was the cops, the same cops, which failed to catch the shooter that tried to kill Trump, the same people who failed to catch the guy a whole hour, he had a whole hour to do what he did, are the same people that basically opened up and let the Republican Trump supporters pour in to Capitol Hill and basically riot on Capitol Hill. Yeah, I just think that's funny. But yeah, I wouldn't characterize it as an uprising or an insurrection. There was no long-term plans for the securing of government. There was no effort to, like, they all went home afterwards. It'd be one thing if they continued to occupy the fucking building long after the riot was over with. It'd be one thing if they actually occupied and took over the government building, but they didn't. They rioted, they waved their flags, they set some shit on fire, they killed a few people, and they went home. That's all that was.
Reporting on again is selling limited assassination edition shoes, sneakers. There's
stay classy. Commodification. Someone almost killed me. Someone just tried to kill me. I better commodify that. Little commodification. It actually makes perfect sense.
5,000 pairs available. He's selling them for $299 each. And you won't hear the corporate media talk about that either, that he's using this to make money by selling Assassination Edition sneakers that he is selling to grift off of this. I mean, this is some truly unhinged and deranged stuff. Just to show you as well, here is, you want to talk about the types of themes.
Nah, it makes perfect sense, actually. Anyways, Israel strikes Yemen after Houthis attack.
In the area of the port, the Israeli Air Force struck dual-use infrastructure used for terrorist activities, including energy infrastructures. Israel's necessary and proportionate strikes were carried out in order to stop the Houthi terror attacks. However,
praise be to Allah, hopefully they keep coming, because the state of Israel doesn't deserve to be real.
This threat goes far beyond Israel. The Houthis target other countries in the Middle East, the United States of America, and the world with their attacks on international shipping in the Red Sea. And not just the Red Sea.
Good.
Who is behind the Houthis? One country, Iran. The Iranian regime funds, arms, and directs the Houthi terror activity. Israel is fighting a multi-front war against Iran's aggression proxies, Hamas in Gaza, Hezbollah in Lebanon, Iranian militias in Syria and Iraq, and the Houthis in Yemen. The International Maritime Coalition, led by United States Central Command, as well as the IDF, have stopped many of those Houthis' attacks in recent months. We see common interests for all countries attacked by Iranian-backed Houthi terrorism to stand together against this threat. Today, this was an IDF-only action. I want to repeat it. Today, this was an IDF-only action. We will continue to defend the people of Israel from all threats, near and far.
Bitch, you can't even defend your own army. Like, you can't keep the state of Israel. You can't keep the Israeli citizens safe. You can't even keep your own people safe. You fucking kidding me? Mr. The ear on my right side is bigger than the ear on my right side. Is it just me, or does this man have massive ears? But no, you can't even keep your own people safe, bro. Millions of Israelis are having to flee the country because of attacks being perpetrated by Hezbollah. And deservedly so. Like, let me tell you something, man. If your country, like, this regime's gonna fail. Like, the Israeli regime is just doomed to fail. Like, I truly believe the state of Israel is not going to be around within, like, the next 25 years. But I digress. Where was I? Oh, yeah. The killing of Mohammad Bahr. I know nothing about this. Someone mentioned this about an hour ago, and I'm sorry I'm just getting to this. But yeah, 24-year-old Palestinian with Down syndrome and autism who, according to his family, died after being mauled by an Israeli military dog. Oh, so they fed a man with Down syndrome to their dogs. Beautiful. Following the attack, the family was separated from him after several hours forced from the house, leaving Bahr locked in a room under the supervision of Israeli forces. At some point, he was attended by an Israeli doctor. He was found dead a week later. The incident occurred during a raid on a family house in the Gaza Strip during the Second Battle of Shujaiya and the Israel-Hamas war. Mohammad Bahr was a Palestinian born in the Gaza Strip in 2000. He had Down syndrome and autism and was... No, this guy is a member of Hamas. What are you talking about? This dude's Hamas. Don't you know that every innocent person that the state of Israel kills is Hamas? They're all Hamas. They're all military targets. Yeah, just so you liberals know, even if they're killing civilians in the pursuit of killing Hamas soldiers, murdering civilians is still a war crime. Let's see what we got here. He had and was deeply attached to his mother, who was widowed in 2002. When her husband was killed by Israeli forces, since the Israeli-Hamas war erupted, the genocide, let's call it what it is, the Bahr family said they had been displaced at least 6 times, and that they had to evacuate 15 times to escape the bombing. On July 3rd, the family said that a week after they had been trapped in a relative's home, Israeli forces raided the place with a combat dog, which proceeded to maul Muhammad's arm and chest. Muhammad, who had speech difficulties and could only utter simple words, started screaming and pleading at the dog to stop, according to the family. The family described how Israeli forces then separated Muhammad from them in another room, where the military doctor arrived. They added that the Israeli forces later led them out of the house at gunpoint and prevented them from returning there until a week later, when they found Muhammad bloodied. Don't worry, guys, the doctor's here to help. We know we just mauled your son to death with our dog. Yeah, I mean, it's what it is, whatever. But it's okay because he was a Hamas soldier, right? He was. This is completely justified to stop Hamas, right? What 3,000 maximum 3,000 casualties, members of Hamas, and like what upwards of 200,000 Palestinian casualties, isn't that right? I've seen enough, man. I've had enough. Can't stay for the stream. Yeah, I mean, I'm going to stop it here in a bit just because we've been going along pretty long, but yeah, I don't know what commentary to bring, but this goes on every day. Like, people are being genocided every single day. And every day that we do not spend organizing and rallying against this is a day we give to the reactionaries. So all I can tell is that we need, if you just to show up and protest this in any way you can. Figure out what's going on in your area with respect to your local class struggle. Show up to some anti-genocide protests, motherfuckers. Like, that's all I have to tell. But yeah, this happens every single day in Israel. Innocent people die. Like, every single day, innocent people are dying over there. And it's because of actions being enabled and perpetrated by our own governments. So yeah, I heard a story that Israeli prisons have these civilians raped by dogs. They're rape prisons, dude. There's this huge scandal that's been unveiled about how they have these rape dungeons in the state of Israel. You know, it's fucking crazy. They have these rape dungeons, literal rape dungeons in Israel. Like, people talking about Gaddafi having rape dungeons, the racist allegation. That's literally what's going on over there, though. So, yeah. It took me forever to get my net connection stable enough to even watch this stream. Fucking Spectrum. And that's what you get for having bourgeois Wi-Fi, comrade. Since capitalism grew out of feudalism, it still has way too many features left over. I mean, yeah. Anglophone Calvinism, exactly. We have a prison industrial complex in this country that needs to go away, of course. I'm not in favor of prison abolition or nothing, guys, but I wouldn't mind the prison industrial complex as we know it in the United States being abolished. That's all I'm saying. But anyways, I mean, yeah, what else is there? I have other topics that I was going to cover. I was going to go on my capitalism is anti-democratic rant. I was going to go visit the World Socialist website in Al Jazeera, but the stream's running pretty long. Tell you what, though, I'm getting tired, guys. How about I stream tomorrow at an indeterminate point? Does that sound good? Why don't we pick up where we left off tomorrow, and we will go through those other subject matter with which I have had sought out for the stream. Does that sound good to you guys? I think that sounds good to me. Sometime after 4 p.m., please. Ballpark time, afternoon. Between 2 and 4 o'clock, probably. So yeah, that's all I have to say for now, and we'll pick up after tomorrow. It'll be a good time. You guys take it easy.